All right, so all members are present. We'll call to order the December 9th special meeting of the West Sacramento City Council, the Redevelopment Successor Agency, and the Financing Authority. We're going to begin tonight with a call to order and then move directly into item 1A. We have two meetings this evening, both of which are being conducted pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20, pursuant to which the members of council and their staff are participating in the meeting by teleconference, and members of the public have been asked to participate through submitting comments to the city clerk as well, and to view the meeting through live stream on the website or on Wave Cable Channel 20. So the council did not meet in closed session this evening. That will occur later. So we're going to proceed directly to item 1A, which is presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the City Council. Madam Clerk, do we have comments under 1A?
Good evening, Mayor Cabaldo. No, we did not receive any public comment under 1A for this special meeting.
All right, thank you very much. Then we'll proceed to item 1B, which is council communications. Are there reports or other communications from members of the council related to these assignments this evening? Mayor Pro Tem Sandin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. West Sacramento area, bless you. The West Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency met on November 19th. We heard updates on projects and also about advocacy for federal funding of our projects. All really positive updates, and the flood protection staff team is doing really excellent work. The Delta Protection Commission also met on November 19th. We elected a new commission chair and vice chair and commended our own supervisor, Oscar Villegas, for having served for the past 2 years as the commission chair. We received reports on Delta Stewardship Council science activities, economic sustainability plan for tourism and recreation, a Delta Protection Advisory Committee report, and we made appointments to Delta National Heritage Area Management Plan Advisory Committee. YOLO Local Agency Formation Commission met on December 3rd. We adopted and updated the YOLO LAFCO Shared Services Strategic Plan, filed the YOLO LAFCO financial statements for fiscal years 2018-19 and 2019-20, and we authorized expenditures to digitize all of YOLO LAFCO's hard copy records with the Yolo County Archives. Earlier today, the Yolo Solano Air Quality Management District met, and we took action on Clean Air Fund projects for the 2020 program. I'm really pleased to report that of the $60,000 of funding approved today for Yolo County, the City of West Sacramento will receive $9,000 to install level 2 electric vehicle charger, and Washington Unified School District will receive $31,500 for electric vehicle infrastructure for electric vehicle buses. So if you're doing the math, that means that West Sacramento is receiving over 2/3 of the funding for Yolo County for our competitive application. There were 8 applications requesting nearly $140,000 in funds and 5 successful applications. In addition, we also received our ozone season report, selected a new chair and vice chair for 2021, and received the performance, reviewed the performance of our air pollution control officer. And then finally, and this is my last 1B report as a council member, the Port District Commission met earlier tonight, and we discussed community service agreements with the Lake Washington Sailing Club and with the River City Rowing Club in order to prepare for long-term leases. And that, Mr. Mayor, is my report.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Sandin. I think that's what they call running through the tape all the way to the end. Thank you so much for your leadership and for the report, and that's great news about the Air District allocations. Thanks for fighting on behalf of West Sacramento, and to all the applicants and staff who helped who prepared really great. I'm sure it's not politics. We propose good application based on criteria that our elected leadership helps to craft, and then we won. So great job. Other reports this evening? Councilmember Roscoe.
Thank you. The Executive Commission to Address Homelessness met on December 3rd. We've received a very lengthy staff presentation discussing COVID-19 and Project Room Key updates. We also received and discussed policy and funding priorities, of which the discussion covered homelessness prevention, funding for capital projects, also zoning and local ordinances, taxation and revenue strategies, as well as creation of a subcommittee or a task force. We also talked about the Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention program, HHAP round 2, and HPAC governance update, which was also a lengthy discussion wherein many of the committee members discussed representation on a new board that they're considering creating. Currently, the recommendation is to have one member from the Executive Committee on Homelessness represent the cities, as opposed to having the cities represent the cities or have a representative from the cities represent. So right now they're taking applications. From what I understand, there may be some folks from West Sacramento that are applying. However, I understand there was a letter that was sent from the regional city managers to express their concerns with respect to the current governance structure and perhaps consider can't think of the word, reconsidering the governance structure to reflect more of the city's representation. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Roscoe. Other reports? All right, I had a couple. First, through the United States Conference of Mayors, had the opportunity last week to facilitate a conversation with the incoming Surgeon General of the United States, Vivek Murthy, who also served as Surgeon General for President Obama, around pandemic response. He's also the co-chair of the COVID task force that the president-elect has convened. But around pandemic response, how the federal response and federal actions can be supportive of work that's happening locally in cities, but also with cities partners, and dealing with some of the street level issues around data transfers and data sharings and funding streams and other things that we've run up against during the 2020 response, and also learning the lessons that we've felt at the ground level, at the national level, when it comes to the deployment of the vaccines. He also shared with us more detail about the vaccine prioritizations and the distribution systems and networks that are being deployed, and invited more city participation in that work on a going forward basis. So that has been he's been a very positive partner, and I think understands very clearly both the challenges, but also the potential of cities as part of the public health system locally. Whether we ask for that or not, as to be part of that system, 2020 has required the city to step up, and the institutions and the services that we provide are essential to that, and that will be especially true as the vaccine comes online and requires being distributed. In addition, just to supplement Member Pro Tem Sandine's report, just on the flood protection issue, the Senate has included language in the committee report. This is the United States Senate has included language in the committee report accompanying the appropriations bill for the Army Corps of Engineers and other water and power agencies. Language that specifically instructs the Corps that the Congress is supportive of the West Sacramento Flood Control Project, that it is eligible to be funded, and that it is a priority to be funded. Congress no longer makes earmarks, so they can't allocate the funds directly to us. So this is the strongest action that the Congress could take. And thanks to Senator Feinstein, and of course to our champion Congresswoman Matsui, it's done so. So that's very positive, and we're hopeful in the upcoming work plans that the Corps will make those allocations in support of our project. And then finally, there are two related meetings from last week. The Bike Share Policy Steering Committee met, and we were able to reach a last-minute deal with Lime around an agreement for the next couple of years. And then in addition, the Transportation Committee for SACOG met the following day and approved that agreement as well. So this isn't, we first, let me just share, we got a performance report on bike share and scooters in the SACOG region, which in this particular case just applies to Sacramento and West Sacramento at the moment, because Davis's system hasn't been restarted since it was shut down at the outset of the pandemic. But we continue to see very strong performance in both cities. Since the launch of the JUMP system, our system has been the second strongest performer of any bike share system in the entire country. And that says a lot about its impact in our communities, but also not just among like traditional folks who bike, but it's really expanded the range of who bikes and for what purposes and for what kinds of trips. It's also, the research is showing that about 30% of the bike share system trips are replacing car trips. And so it's a significant help in our battle around climate change and around reducing congestion, but also access to jobs, and that the system connects folks to transit, and it's really working. Also that it's a dramatically lower cost than a transit pass especially for low income riders, but for all riders, it's a lower cost to use and a lower subsidy cost from local government. So it's performing at a significant, to the significant benefit of residents in our region. Now, the economics of bike share has changed quite a bit. What we've seen in the last several months is a consolidation of the market. I think we knew this in West Sacramento from the beginning, as we insisted that we create a micro-mobility environment and not just pick one provider. And that's turned out to be very wise because, as you know, Lime purchased Jump and others have entered and exited the market. And then we had the pandemic as well. And so the system is performing, but bikes are the lost leaders in these programs. Bike share, as opposed to scooters, has more challenging economics. And it doesn't appear to be as economically viable as a profitable enterprise from the private sector. That said, bike share remains very important, independent of scooters. That not everyone, if there weren't a bike share available, a lot of those riders wouldn't necessarily get on a scooter. It's a different market, it's a different culture, it's a different risk profile, all of that. And the trips are different. Scooters tend to be used for slightly shorter trips than bikes. And so we've made it a big priority to protect bike share and not allow just companies to only offer scooter share. So we've reached an agreement with Lime at the last minute in the previous week. And that's a 2-year agreement with SACOG with the support of the Sacramento Air District providing some funding. And that will allow us to continue the bike share system as well as the scooters, but the scooters are being provided not just by Lime, but also by Bird in our city and Spin and other providers too. But it will allow not just to continue bike share, but to increase it over time, to tighten up even more on improperly parked bikes and scooters, and to make a sustainable system. So the system is performing, it's doing a great job, and it's meeting a lot of public needs. It's got significant support, and thanks to the financial support of the Air District, it appears that we're going to be able to sustain it in the long run. So that will be going to a formal vote of the SACOG board in 2 weeks. But given that it's been unanimously approved by the Transportation Committee and the Bike Share Steering Committee, we're optimistic that will win its approval. All right, so that's it on item 1B, forever. Let's move on to item 2, which is presentation of a proclamation recognizing Linda Luna for 5 years of service as the superintendent of the Washington Unified School District. First, is there a motion on the proclamation?
I'll move the proclamation.
All right, well, I know Mayor Pro Tem Sending did bring in first with the motion. And after that, I couldn't tell. Sorry.
Second.
Okay, so Councilmember Roscoe seconds. It certainly is so Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on the motion to approve the proclamation?
Certainly. Councilmember Guerrero.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sandin.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
And Mayor Cabaldan.
Aye. It's no surprise that the entire City Council tried to second that motion, given the contribution and the impact that Superintendent Luna has had in our community. And I just would like to lead off. I've had the opportunity to serve with many superintendents in our community since I was first elected to the City Council in 1996. Too many, because the quality and the equity of education in our community depends on real leadership by a superintendent. And Superintendent Luna may be the longest serving superintendent, at least in a long time. But those are just years. The impact has been enormous in our community. It wasn't that long ago that if you turned on a Washington Unified meeting, you would hear discussions and debates about, should back to school night be at 6:15 or 6:20, or should the band uniforms be, this shade of blue or that shade of blue, and no one was talking about achievement, about opportunity, about equity in a real way, and that's changed over the last generation. As school board members, parents, community members, local businesses have insisted that we do better by our kids and that we provide opportunity, real opportunity and success for every child in every part, in every neighborhood of our city. But it's more. It takes more than just an idea, more than just a commitment. And when the Board of Trustees appointed Dr. Linda Luna to lead Washington Unified School District, they struck gold, and we enlightening in our community, and brought someone to the district and to the city that had the skills and the knowledge and she had a big stick when she needed it, and a hug and some flowers when she needed those. But most importantly, she never ever, she couldn't go 10 minutes without talking about students and young people in this community. You couldn't meet with her or talk to her about any issue, and that could be trash pickup, it could be parent drop-offs in front of the school, and she would, by the time you were done, you were talking about how do we do better to make sure that every child in even the toughest neighborhoods of our community can read and can do math and have the option to go to college and to get career education and to get a great opportunity. This is who Linda Luna is at her core, and it's been such an enormous honor for me as an educator, but for all of us and for our colleagues in city government and nonprofits to be able to work with her and to build bridges between the school district and the city that were so desperately needed, and to engage everyone in the common enterprise and the common purpose of serving our kids. And what we've seen has been so remarkable. And people aren't leaving West Sacramento when their kids turn 5 anymore, or when they're ready to go to high school. They know this is a great place to grow up and a great place to raise a family. And that the schools are great, and they keep getting better, and they get better because we believe in them, and we invest in them, and we support them, and we hold them accountable, but we also step up to do the hard work. And that is such an incredible legacy. We've been, as the city of West Sacramento, we've partnered with the schools like never before in our history. We've built on the success that we already had on preschool, and as a leader together in that space, to provide college savings accounts for every child, and digital badges and paid internships for every student in a college and career pathway, and free community college. And then this year's initiative to send a letter of admission to college to every single graduating high school senior, the first school district and city in the country to do that. Those kinds of innovations are almost literally child's play to Superintendent Linda Luna, child's play and to the child's benefit. And how fortunate we've been as a community to have her leadership. And so I'm so honored and so proud that we could spend this, at least for me, my last meeting, to say thank you to Linda, to the school board for appointing her and supporting her and making all the investments. But to Linda Luna, who's been an extraordinary leader, colleague, and partner in this journey, and to the great benefit of the young people of our community. Right. Other Mayor Pro Tem Sandine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Superintendent Luna, thank you for your transformational leadership and your commitment to partnerships, as the Mayor mentioned. It's been just so wonderful to work with you on the West Sacramento Home Run, on community engagement with Los Rios Community College District and UC Davis, two of my former employees and close to my heart, and through the Yolo County Office of Education. I was always really proud to attend the State of Education and Yolo County updates and hear your report of all that was being achieved in Washington Unified School District under both your leadership and with the governance of the Board of Trustees. I was especially delighted, I have to say, when you would share some of your reports through song, and I got to hear your beautiful voice. You always have a way of making me feel proud of our school district and what is possible. inviting us to take part in the Principal for a Day program, Read Across America, Flood Preparedness Week, and all of the other ways we could work together, from the preschool and early education opportunities, and as the mayor shared, a whole bunch more. I want to thank you for your passion and commitment to our community, and I wish you all the best. You are leaving great legacy, Linda. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Cindy. Any other comments?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, Councilmember Roscoe.
Thank you. Linda, I'm going to keep my comments short, but I'll say that as a young girl who hadn't initially considered going to college, and knowing that it was someone in my high school who intervened and changed the trajectory of what my future was to become, and the journey that I was to experience, I can't stress the importance enough what it means to have people like you in the system where young, impressionable minds are charting their future. You have been a champion of one of the most innovative initiatives our city has known when it comes to education. And, you know, our community and our children have benefited and will continue to benefit as our workforce is shaped by the West Sac Home Run. Your mark and your influence will be left on every young mind in the city so long as that initiative is alive, and I intend to keep it alive. And I want to thank you on behalf of every young girl who envisioned herself being in education and saw a role model in you, every Filipino who strived to be at the top of her game and did, with confidence and strength and wisdom and intelligence. And for everyone who aspires to just go into a city and shake things up and make an impression and retire on top, I say cheers to you and thank you for all that you've done in our city.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Linda, I cannot believe time has flown by so quickly since we started 5 years ago. It's over 5 years ago. And the impact you've had on our community and our kids and our parents. I am one of those parents whose oldest daughter got the benefit of River City's programs there. And it's a testament to the impact you've had throughout our community on parents who benefit from the services and the education, the quality of education you strive for. I think many parents, as we all do, walk through life and we try to get our kids through school, and we do the best we can on the school district. We don't think about what goes behind the scenes to make those sorts of things happen. Now, being on council for 10 years and knowing the relationship we've had in the past with maybe past school boards and through superintendents, wasn't quite sure where we can make a difference, but what a difference you have made in our community. And you have really, the way you've collaborated with the city, the way the school board as well, I'll give them props again, not just for choosing you, but for following up and really supporting you in your endeavors. They deserve a world of credit. And I think about the times that we've worked together, as my colleagues have said, on Principal for a Day, or you've supported us when we needed a youth summit or the Climate Change Commission, and you opened your doors and welcomely, and that was great. But you also provided. I never heard you sing, but you provided a great deal of warmth and I should say comfort to those same families, especially at times of tragedy, which we've experienced as a community. And I am really grateful that you were there to lead at that moment. And I'm grateful that you've been here and the tenure you've had. And I'm still wishing you to somehow miraculously change your mind after all these great speeches tonight, but I doubt that will happen. So thank you from parents of your school district. Thank you for all you've done, and I appreciate you so much and wish you well.
Thank you. Councilmember Guerrero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to also add to everyone here who is extremely grateful for the treasure that you have been to our community. I, as a grandmother, and also here on council as an elected representatives, have seen you provide a fulfilled experience for us over the years. And my little grandson has been doing well and excelling thanks to what you've been doing for our children in school. And, you know, he's had developmental challenges. And so even the littles that have some challenges have benefited. And I'm extremely grateful for all that you've done to help all the youth. You can go away knowing that there are going to be children thriving in the future. There are going to be lives successful. And that's thanks to you, your leadership, the principals who would always take time to meet with the parents, the teachers who worked really hard, especially now that they are going through the pandemic, the guidance that you provided, the calm guidance that you provided, hanging in there with all the parents as we are trying to transition from one day to the next. And, you know, you hung in there with your strength, with your patience, willingness to be flexible and work with all of us. And I am extremely grateful for that. And I wish you well on whatever you decide to do. Don't forget us, come back and spend time with us when you can. And just want to say, you know, greatly appreciate your leadership here in our city.
Mayor Cabaldon, if I could just maybe say a few words. I'm so, I don't know what the word is. I'm very humbled by your very kind and generous words. I would be remiss if I did not mention that my success here in my time in Washington Unified School District comes from the support from my Board of Trustees, who we came together as a governing team, a team of 6. And I'm grateful that my board accepted me in that role, in that leadership capacity with them, because we've been able to partner and build our relationship with our city, with our county, because the more hands and the more bridges that we build, the more we're able to serve our students and our families. And I want to thank the city for that, for believing in us, for not giving up on us, and also seeing the same kind of vision and the same passion in ensuring that all of our students, every single student, by name and by need, receives the highest quality education possible, starting with preschool and at least beginning another journey through community college and many more doors after that. There are so many partnerships. I started listing so many things that we have been doing together where our students and our families have benefited, and you have named quite a few. But when we opened Washington Middle College High School, our partnership with the community college strengthened even more, where we started with 37 students and now we're at 167 with over 200 projected for next year. That was a step of faith that you walked with us, and I thank you for that. But on another part where most people don't know, the VIA transportation brings our Washington Middle College students to college. And so it's those kinds of partnerships that make Washington Unified and the city successful. And I'll leave you with this. There's a great book. It's called The Village. And really what it's about is that it really does take a village to grow every single student in a community. I want to thank you for accepting me into that village. West Sacramento will always be in my heart, always. I've been crying like you would not believe. But that said, you will always have a special place in my heart. You will always be on my radar to see the progress and the movement forward. And so thank you for accepting me into this family. And I'm greatly honored. Thank you so much.
Luna, thank you. Thank you so much. And congratulations on a well-deserved retirement from our district. Who knows what's up next? And the only thing different about tonight, as opposed to every other time we see you, is that there's no class of kindergartners or even just a small child running by that you stop everything for the young people. That you're stern with us adults and just so caring. Authentically caring about every single child by name, and your legacy, your leadership has been an inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I would like to request, if it's possible, that I serve as chair for this next item, item number 3. In my role as Mayor Pro Tem. All right.
The gavel is yours.
Oh, thank you. The symbolic gavel. And so this is item number 3, which is a proclamation of the West Sacramento City Council recognizing Mayor Christopher Cabaldon for 24 years of service to the city of West Sacramento. And colleagues, I'd like to ask for your indulgence as I read this into the record before asking for a motion. Whereas West Sacramento began its history as an incorporated city in 1987, beset by the challenges accumulated over the decades it had spent as a part of unincorporated Yolo County. And whereas at the time Christopher Cabaldon was originally elected to the city council in 1996, the city of West Sacramento was still struggling to overcome those challenges, including inadequate infrastructure, urban blight, and the need to build institutional capacity to provide needed services to the West Sacramento community. And whereas, as a council member, Christopher became one of the city council's leading voices on addressing those immediate issues, along with longer-term challenges, such as restoring West Capitol Avenue as the city's downtown, promoting riverfront development, and making strategic infrastructure investments to facilitate the city's economic growth. Whereas, City Council first appointed Christopher as mayor in 1998, and he was subsequently appointed for 3 additional one-year terms as mayor. And whereas in 2004, Christopher won West Sacramento's first direct mayoral election and was re-elected in each of the next 7 elections, making him the longest-serving mayor in the city's history. And whereas, under Christopher's leadership, the city of West Sacramento has implemented or facilitated multiple game-changing projects, including development of a new civic center, the Arthur C. Turner Library, the Recreation Center, Sutter Health Park, which we know formerly as Rayleigh Field, miles of new roads and bike lanes, hundreds of units of workforce housing, and miles of flood control projects protecting the safety of West Sacramento residents. And whereas, during Christopher's tenure as mayor, the city has experienced enormous economic and population growth, which has brought tangible quality of life improvements for West Sacramento residents and help fulfill the vision of this community when it originally moved to incorporate. Whereas the city's accomplishments are always a result of the combined efforts of the mayor, city council, and other stakeholders. Christopher's local leadership, astute legislative advocacy, and ambition vision for this community has been integral to the West Sacramento's extraordinary success. And whereas under Christopher's leadership, West Sacramento has earned regional, statewide, and national recognition as a leader in transportation, civic innovation, early childhood education, policing, addressing the impacts of homelessness, and multiple other domains. And whereas Christopher has consistently encouraged West Sacramento residents to participate in the city's governance and has appointed multiple women and people of color to the city's advisory commissions, helping to assure the city's leadership represents the community's diversity. And whereas Christopher has leveraged his extensive experience in leadership and government to mentor multiple aspiring and current council members over the years, helping them to find their voice and contributing to the city's vibrant civic life. And whereas through his 24 years of service to the West Sacramento community, Christopher Cabaldon has left an indelible legacy of excellence that is manifested physically in the buildings, infrastructure, and other improvements that have been constructed on his watch, but also in the example he set of the power of vision, commitment, and persistence, which will provide lasting inspiration to new generations of leaders going forward. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of West Sacramento hereby recognizes and thanks Christopher Cabaldon for his extraordinary service to this community. Wishes him success in all his future endeavors, both in West Sacramento and beyond. Proclaimed this 9th day of December, 2020. So before, and that is our proclamation before us tonight. Before I call for the motion, we did receive a comment from the public, and that is posted on our website. And so with that, I'd like to ask for a motion.
So
Move to approve.
Moved by Councilmember Orozco. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Guerrero. Clerk, would you please call the roll for the vote on this proclamation?
Yes. Councilmember Orozco,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sandin,
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma,
Aye.
Councilmember Guerrero,
Aye.
Mayor Cabalden.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. I'd like to ask to pass this and have presented this to you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask my colleagues if they would like to have comments on the item. Councilmember Orozco, may I call on you?
Yeah. There are pages of proclamation that can adequately reflect the impact that you've left on the city, but also to capture adequately the thanks on behalf of all of the residents here, those who have lived here for many generations and those who are just crossing the bridge for the first time to settle in and raise a family. In 2007, I made that choice to come here. And in that time, I've lived in several different neighborhoods throughout the city, whether it be Bridgeway Lakes, Bridgeway Island, and now the State Streets. The one remarkable thing about every place that I've lived is that I fell in love with all of them. And I've always been so proud to say that I lived in West Sacramento. You know, there are some that knew a West Sacramento from another time and are amazed when I remark about how far we've come in the last couple decades. When you talk about a place where you would want to buy a home and raise your family and still have that small town, any town feel. You have the relics of the past, businesses that have been here for many, many years, but also those that are budding. And I remember how you used to say that people would invest their life savings and put it on the line in order to follow their dream. And you would always encourage that. You are a remarkable leader. And I don't want to go on all night about all of the wonderful attributes, but you've made this city the envy of so many throughout our nation. People who ask about West Sacramento and the neat things that we're doing. And it is bittersweet to say farewell tonight. But I'm also excited because not only do you have the benefit of saying, I just left an indelible mark on an incredible little city, a mighty little city, but you're off to do even more wonderful things for people elsewhere. It has been an honor to serve the last 4 years with you at the dais. I always look forward to your reports. Even though they're long, I always look forward to hearing about all of the wonderful things that are on the horizon, not only for you, but also for our city. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful so much to have had the great pleasure of saying I served with Christopher Cabalden. Thank you, sir, for your service.
Councilmember Orozco. Councilmember Guerrero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem Sandin. Mayor Cabalden, I just want to say how grateful I am for the many years of the opportunity to serve here. It gave me an opportunity to see all the incredible work, your dedication, your vision, your dreams and the dreams of many others. You open those doors up because you understand how to move things forward. and your hard work. And it has paid off. We have been drawing so many people from different parts of the state here to West Sacramento to work, and some just to live and commute out, because it is a thriving city, because your vision has provided such an incredible quality of life, and just the ability to get out and enjoy the walking paths, the bike trails. And you know, when I was canvassing, everybody was saying, what a great mayor you have been. And it was very, just very nice to hear and to know that I lived here in a city, and in a city that has been doing incredibly well. You will be missed, but I will be in touch with you. I do want to do something to remember you here in our city. I want to do something and work with you and find a way to achieve that, because it is so well deserved. And I want to be able to see what we can do to work together here in the future, because I see that you have that vision and interest to continue to work on here. And I don't think it just goes away, but I know that your heart will always be here in West Sacramento, right from the moment that you drove through the city and onwards. And so just want to see what we can do to continue to work together. I have seen all the council members that you brought in and have been successful in their terms, all the planning commissioners, all the commissioners, everyone that has been coming in. You have thoughtfully spent time to select individuals that can be committed and dedicated to serve. And it's because of that you've had a strong council all these years. So I'm very grateful for that. And big, huge shoes for me, to walk into and to move forward. And so that's why I'm going to have to hang on to you, Christopher. I'm going to have to continue to work together. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Guerrero. And I'll jump in at this moment before handing it over to Councilmember Ledesma and our city manager. Christopher, thank you for believing in this special place and giving us all of yourself, your intellect, your creativity, your energy, your passion, your commitment, your care. Thank you for inspiring me, and I think all of us, to try to give our all as well, and to come together to envision a place that we're proud to call home. Thank you for encouraging us, pushing us, gently nudging us to reach higher, go further, try harder, expect more, do better, evolve, grow, experiment, and create. We're all the better for it. Thank you for helping me and us believe we were deserving are deserving of resources, accolades, excellence, and attention. I was taught growing up to leave a place better than I found it, and you have done that hundreds and thousands of times over. It's been a joy and honor and a pleasure to serve with you on this council. To have known you since you were a young legislative staffer, who've shared our passion, the power, and the transformation of education and our love of music, and to be able to appreciate and embrace a legacy you leave. I'm grateful to you from the bottom of my heart, and I look forward to cheering on our city with you together. Thank you. Councilmember Ledesma.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I really don't know why you guys are thanking him, because we're about to get the worst constituent ever commenting to us for the rest of our term. So something tells me he will be always close and in our ear about how we can be better, because ultimately that's, I joke, Christopher, but that's the indelible mark you've left on the city, is putting into it. And we use the word vision, and I'm not sure that's quite the right word. I think you taught us how to have vision and how to envision, and you taught us how to, and you gave us the strength to think big, and to be bold and innovative, but also to do things the right way. And I think that's when I think about the legacy you're leaving upon the city and upon us. I agree with some of my colleagues. You inspired us and gave us the city hope and city the ability to think big, and to be able to, and that comes with is the hard work. I think that's the part that will be the hard shoes to fill. You have been, what I've seen from you, observed from you, is you're an incredibly hard worker. And you've challenged all of us. You challenged city staff. You challenged colleagues across the river, across the region to think different. The impact you've had on this region and the city will be one that's going to be hard to fill, or will be left for a long time. From your champion of the blueprint of SACOG about how future growth. Those battles are, as you know, and you've been reporting from SACOG, are still happening today. But it's there it's there because of a large part because of you, and you helped those staffs champion it. You worked hard to say we needed infrastructure, that we needed to build back better here, and we did. I remember when I started in the Planning Commission, the Triangle was a big project we never thought would happen, and through leadership and determination that you led, and a lot of people went to work on, we now have the Bridge District forming, the Washington neighborhood forming, because of the work we did to get the grants necessary to get whatever we had necessary. You went to work every day. You went to work with vision and purpose, and our city has benefited from it. And we've had some fun along the way. We had some ability to have bike rides across neighborhoods and across projects. We've had concerts on the riverfront, including a memorable Tears for Fears concert on our riverfront. That we've done a lot of great things as a community, dig-in dinners on West Capitol Avenue, festivals all across that people had, and you were there to help make those happen. Whether you're a part of it or not, you help people to make it happen. And I think that was the part of it that we appreciate. You also helped us through some really trying times. When I got here, we were coming out of recession, and we had to figure out a way to get that done. And most recently this summer, we had a very tragic shooting in our community that involved our police, and something we all had to get. You led through, and I appreciate that. And in short, I appreciate everything you brought to the table, because it was authentic, it was real, and it was about making life a little better for everybody in this community. And I think of the people who get on a VIA today, the seniors who are able to get out, because of an idea we had, and encourage staff to follow. People can get around and get groceries now. People can get around to the doctor's office, or as I witnessed one person just be able to go by herself to get her hair done. Those are things you did and helped lead us on, Christopher. So thank you for all of that. Thank you for challenging us. I don't think that changes. That will be with us always. And I want to thank you for all your work and your public service and the work towards the region. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ledesma. If I may, City Manager Laurel.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Sandine. I'll try to keep it quick, but it wouldn't be a normal one of these meetings if I didn't have to say the live stream is having problems. So we are working on that. It's working for some people, but not others. It looks like the meetings are always recorded. They're always posted after in their entirety, so no one will miss anything here. Just want to throw that out. So Christopher, you probably don't remember this, but I probably first met him back in 2003. I had recently moved to Sacramento, and I was working for the city of Woodland, actually. And it was in an event in Sacramento on affordable housing, and I think he was the keynote speaker. And back then, I just started my career as this wide-eyed idealist that wanted to change the world through inclusionary housing and one project at a time. And I remember being so inspired by seeing you as a speaker and thinking to myself in that moment, well, there's something going on in West Sacramento. I want to go work there. And I remember introducing myself to you after, and actually, I think I even told you that. And then a couple years later, I was here. I've stayed here. I'm still here. And so the story goes. So my story is just one of probably hundreds of those about how people came to work for the city of West Sacramento, or why people came to live in West Sacramento, open a business here, or just to be inspired by something the city was doing. And you could literally write a book with all those West Sac stories, and but in all of them, the common thread and common character that would appear over and over is Christopher Cabaldon. And so as you move on in the world to continue writing your story, just know that there's so many West Sac stories still being written. And I know I speak for our staff when I say that same spirit of inspiration that you showed me and helped create to bring many of us here, and an even stronger sense of that you fostered here, wanting to make our city a better place. That's what keeps a lot of us here, especially on staff. And we know that we can do it because you showed us the way. We're going to keep doing it. In a lot of ways, we're just getting started with stuff. So I'm committed to the city. I know we have so many more staff that are equally committed, and we're all looking forward to working with the new council to keep it going and stay with the West Sac way. So I had a chance to share earlier with Christopher some more, personal thoughts, but I'll just say that I worked with him for a long time over all those years. And 2020, I think, has been worth about 20 years on its own. We were talking about that the other day, but I am looking forward to just having him as a friend and an important mentor in my career. And just thankful for that. Thank you for 24 years. And especially thanks for speaking of that affordable housing event back in 2003. So I don't know if Amanda and Jeff want to jump in real quick, if that's okay, but thank you.
Sure.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Laurel. I'll hand it over. Thank you.
My short comments are not going to be adequate to really give the thanks that's deserved here, but I did want to thank you for your long service, your 24 years of service to the city. Your vision and leadership are, part of the reason that I moved here 15 years ago, and they've been the key to the city's progress and growth into what it is today. And I know staff is also extremely grateful to you for your well-informed and conscientious and forward-thinking comments and direction that have helped shape our work. It's just really been an honor to have been able to work for you and work with you. And just thank you for your service and for everything that you've done for the city. And I hope you get to have a well-deserved little break after this. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll keep remarks very short as well. I have the distinction of having worked with West Sacramento slightly longer than Christopher, but only slightly longer. And it's been a tremendous experience watching the city grow and watching you grow and watching you help the city grow. It isn't all one person, but you have clearly been the leader that has driven where West Sacramento has gone. And, it's a true statement that attorneys are not supposed to have favorites, kind of like parents aren't supposed to have favorite children. But West Sacramento has always been my favorite. Don't tell anybody else. And one of the reasons is because of just the dynamic environment that you helped foster here. So I look forward to continuing to work with the city, but it will be different without you here. But I do hope that you move on and enjoy a little break and then get back into it, and I'm sure you will. So congratulations on moving on to the next phase of your life.
Thank you all very much. And at this time, I'd like to hand the floor over to Mayor Cabaldon.
Well, first, I am going to be brief, and I'm going to forget to say all kinds of things because tonight is about the swearing in of the new city leadership, and I don't want us to be here till 1 a.m. of doing this when I know there's so many friends and family members that are excited for what's about to come. But I want to thank the council and our leadership team and the hundreds of staff that I've heard from today and before about this journey. So much of this has been being the Wizard of Oz, which was not what I anticipated when I first ran. I thought I had all these ideas, all these proposals. So I spent hours on spreadsheets and maps and legislation that I wanted to get passed in the council. And as I started to just do the hard work and to sit down with mentors of mine like Mike McGowan, who took a chance on me when I was just like this punk outsider kid. And our first mayor encouraged and supported and nurtured me as a local, and showed me what real, authentic, community-based leadership looked like, and helped me to see that everything we needed in our city we had. We just didn't see it for ourselves. And that so much of my job in the last 24 years has been to help us see that, to see our possibilities, and to see what we sometimes think of as our weaknesses as our strengths. That little gutsy, scrappy, we don't take no mess from no one, but we're also, we can do anything. We've been through, as a community, we've been poor and disrespected and dumped on, but we stood back up, and we can fight, and we can write, and we can organize, and we can sing. We have so much. And the things that we don't have that other richer cities have, well, it's just made us work a little harder, a little bit more creative, made us have more coalitions, build more partnerships, and we've seen the results. So most of it has just been, yes, you have the courage. Yes, you have the heart. And here's a pair of ruby slippers to help focus your mind. But we really can do just about anything. And we see that all around just the city. I mean, one of the great things about being a mayor or a council member that you don't get as being a senator or a president is we all live here. We can enjoy the fruits of our labor and the joys of those partnerships, and we can see our neighbors and our family members, enjoying a scoop of devil may care or a beer at Bike Dog. We can see them working out, climbing rocks in the rec center, or kayaking in the barge canal. We get to see and be a part of the community and the magic that we're helping to create and to enable others to make. And what a great gift. So I've tried to think about, my favorite memories of being mayor and things that I'm a chair, but it's so hard because this has been my whole life for 24 years. It's not like I get up in the morning and go to work and be mayor for a while and then come home and do something else. I come home and be mayor some more, spend the weekend being mayor some more, because I love this place and its people so much. And given as we started to succeed and make change, I realized, well, how can I go to sleep right now if we're in a roll, we could still do one more thing. And so every memory I have of my adult life pretty much is as a part of this community and a part of this council. And I'm just so grateful for all of it. I mentioned Mike McGowan. I've had the opportunity to work with some outstanding city managers. When we hired Toby Ross, fresh off of running the Winter Olympics, and why should we have gotten a city manager of that caliber? And then Marty Tuttle from running the whole region, coming and turning our organization upside down and getting results. And then for the first time from within, at the special creative leadership and talent and smarts of Aaron Laurel. I've been so gifted to be able to partner with the city managers and staff at every single level. The department directors, clerks, accountants, secretaries, police officers, firefighters, you name it. We've worked together, and it's been a great honor to be part of a team of people that is so devoted to this community and to doing the right thing. And believing in what's possible and doing the hard work and taking some chances to do it. And then the council. When I first came on council, Cindy Tuttle was walking out the door. She had just lost her reelection campaign. I was walking to a council with no women on it at all. When I was elected to council, no people of color at all. And what a change this generation has been. And even these last couple of elections, as Councilmember Guerrero noted, so we ran against each other this time. 2 years ago, Joe DeAnda, who and I ran against each other. He was a city commissioner that I had appointed as well. Every member of this council right now are former commission appointees that I had appointed, and I'm so proud of not just the caliber and the quality, but the fact that it's us that's still like fighting it out. We're arguing about the priorities and about the issues. So even that legacy of what we've created, the diversity, the evolution in our thinking, the open doors for new directions and new paths, has been something I'm the most proud of. And so for me, it's not the end. This is the end of the beginning. And what is about to take place next is not a test of the city, but I hope it is a sign of the fundamentals that we've built so well. The capacity for partnership and for leadership and for integrity, the kinds of things that have made our city so successful. I couldn't be prouder of what we've built together and more excited and optimistic about what's to come. It's going to be different. It has to be different. Things had to change. But what gives me so much grace and gratitude is that we can and we know how. And this council and staff and the community members and organizations and businesses that make it happen are all there. So thanks to this council, to all the council members that I've served with, from Oscar Villegas and Carolyn Pearson to Bill Christoph and Greg Podnick and Wes Beers and Mark Johannesson, all along the way. What an incredible group of people that have served this community, and to be on a council now with the caliber of folks that West Sacramento somehow attracts to give up, to take time out of being a vice chancellor or a district attorney or a bank vice president or a lobbyist, and to just to step up and serve. That our community is so much better for it, and I'm so proud of it. And so thank you so much for the recognition tonight, but thank you for being my family for most of my adult life. Thank you for giving my life purpose, and for giving me the great gift of being able to achieve and accomplish your life purpose. So few people, if there's such a thing as the meaning of life, that's got to be at least some part of it. West Sacramento has given me that opportunity. I am completely transformed as a result of this experience. Even through the hardest times, even through the most difficult challenges in my own personal life, West Sacramento has always been there, supporting and hugging and urging me on. And it's been just a tremendous journey of which I'm incredibly proud and incredibly grateful. Thank you so much. All right, with that, Mayor Pro Tem Sandine, have you already taken shall we move on to our last item together?
I've handed the symbolic gavel back to you.
All right, then with that, we're going to proceed to item 4, which is consideration of resolution 20-108, accepting the official canvass and certification for the November 3rd, 2020 election and declaring elected Martha Guerrero as mayor, Karina Orozco and Norma Altala as members of the city council. Madam Clerk, do you have a presentation, or is it ready to proceed?
We're ready to proceed, Mayor.
All right, then is there a motion or any question or discussion on the item that's before us?
I'll move the recommended action.
And I'll second that.
All right, it has been moved and seconded. Councilmember Guerrero, are you?
No, we're just waiting for the vote.
All right, so once we've completed the vote, Mayor Pro Tem Sandine and I will exit for the oaths of office, and just on both of our behalf, I want to offer our heartfelt congratulations and best wishes and enduring support and enthusiasm for those that elected, and of course the 2 members that are continuing to serve. Congratulations. Best of luck. We will continue to be part of this community and look forward to the future. So with that, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on the resolution?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Sandine.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Councilmember Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
Mayor Cabaldan.
And with that, the motion carries and the resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk, we'll turn to you for the oaths of office.
Okay, if I could just jump in before we move on to this item, we're going to go ahead and move everyone from the waiting room now to the meeting. Everyone will be muted with the exception of those that have been designated by council members to do the swearing in. So if we could just take a moment to allow us to manage the logistics of that. And we will begin the ceremony shortly. I see we did admit everyone to the waiting room. I believe we have everyone muted. If you're in the waiting room, we'd appreciate it if you could mute yourself. You are able to turn on your video if you like. What we're trying to do here is create the environment we would normally have if we were in our council chambers, where normally we would have this swearing in ceremony with everyone in the audience. And so we felt it was important to have our mayor and council elects be able to experience that. We have quite a few people, so we'll do our best to manage it, but it would very much help if everyone can stay muted. And when we get to each member swearing in, we'll have the person designated to do the swearing in to administer the oath. So Yash, do you want to take it from here?
Yes. Thank you, City Manager Laurel. Good evening, council members, members of the public. Welcome. We will now begin the swearing-in ceremony of our newly elected officials. Let us all welcome our newly elected council member, Norma Alcala.
Thank you.
Hi, Norma.
Hey.
Congratulations, first of all. And what we've talked about, we will watch you get your own oath-taking ceremony that you're going to hold right now.
Thank you. Yes, my son, Carlos Alcala Jr., he's my youngest, will be administering my oath. My daughter, when I was on the school board, my daughter, Adriana, who is an attorney, administered my oath. My son is a second-year law student over at McGeorge, and I'll administer that. Thank you.
Okay.
Carlos? No, I'll call it. Do solemnly swear. And the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of California.
All enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
To the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
The Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
I will take the obligation freely.
That I will take the obligation freely. Preservation and purpose of evasion.
I will well and faithfully
Well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, Council Member Norma Alcala, to the City of West Sacramento City Council. So we have the honor of welcoming back Council Member-elect Karina Orozco. Council Member Orozco.
Hi, good evening. Tonight I have asked my children to administer the oath, and I see my little one in the camera right now, Mateo. Mateo, would you like to hi, baby. Would you like to start us off?
Mommy, please repeat after me.
Okay, baby.
I, Karina Orozco, do solemnly swear
I, Karina Orozco, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the constitutions of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I will take this obligation freely
And that I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion. Thank you.
And that I will well faithfully
and I will well faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Thank you, baby.
Congratulations, Councilmember Orozco.
Thank you.
Now we will go to our new mayor, our mayor-elect, Martha Guerrero.
Thank you, everybody. This evening, I have my daughter, Eleanor Sanchez, who will be administering, helping me administer the oath.
Repeat after me. I, Martha Guerrero,
I, Martha Guerrero,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support and defend
the
Constitution of the United States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of
and
California
the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mayor Guerrero.
Woohoo! Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
I'll go back to my other camera.
Right, Martha, I can explain that part. We're gonna go ahead and before we proceed to the next item, allow the council members to get back to their normal setup. So we do just have the one other item on the agenda, so you're welcome to stay. But once Martha's ready to proceed, we'll go ahead. I'm sorry. Once Mayor Guerrero is ready to proceed, we'll go ahead.
Thank you, everybody. Now I would like to allow the opportunity for our city council members to give a short speech, and we will start with Councilmember Karina Orozco.
Thank you. Excuse me while I take a moment. First off, I'd like to say I'm so honored to be the first woman re-elected to the city council of our city. I'm so grateful for the trust you've given, which I intend to affirm by working as hard as I have for every resident over the past 4 years. But I want to use my time tonight to talk about the trust that I'm placing in this city, in our city. We face uncertain times. If you're feeling anxious or stressed or even angry right now, I understand because I've had those feelings as well. But I find comfort in the wisdom that the best way to know your future is to actually make it. This gives me confidence because I've seen what West Sacramento creates when we're challenged. We're scrappy, but we're resourceful. We gave rebirth to our waterfront district and secured miles of levee and made vibrant places out of a vacant wasteland in places. And we turned dirt into diamonds of the Memorial Park Little League variety of diamond. We're bold experiments. We ask questions like, what we can grow or ferment from urban gardening and craft brewing if we just give people the chance to try. And we say, why not make it easier for people to move around the city or to attend college?
Aaron? Councilmember Orozco, you're...
Yeah, I'm here. It looks like there may be a problem with her stream. If you'd like, we can, I can check with her, but we can perhaps move to Councilmember Alcala and then return to Councilmember Orozco when she's back.
Okay, yes.
I'll check with her in the meantime.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Alcala, can you go up next, please? Thank you.
I want to thank that you've placed in me. I want you all to know that any of you can text me at my personal phone, 916-821-9669. I do not care that not you voted for me. I represent you all equally. I want to thank my family for all the love and support they provided me in the election, and especially to my grandchildren. When they learned of my election, asked me, "Grandma, do you know what state kids can vote in?" I was puzzled and said, "No." Thank you, Michaela and Jasmine. I also want to thank and honor Mayor Capaldo for the years of service he devoted to our city. You're much appreciated. I know you will go on to even greater accomplishments than ever. I've heard that you may be under consideration for a position with the Biden administration. Good luck to you in that endeavor. And again, thank you. Congratulations to Martha Guerrero, Mayor, and Karina Risco, my new colleague. For those of you that live north railroad tracks, as far as I know, I will be the first person living north of the tracks elected in the history of the city. I'm proud to finally have someone from our neighborhood on the city council. Like everyone else, help with the city. To everyone in the city, I've heard all the praises and all the concerns over the years. I will be listening to all of you. Assure you that I will be supporting transparent government operating responsibly through open application processes. Everyone gets a fair shot at opportunities. I will continue the custom and practice of meeting as soon as the virus passes and we can enjoy our meetings again. You can continue to tell me your views on city business, and I will be listening. To my members on the city council, I may not always agree with everyone, but that is the beauty of democracy. I can disagree without being disagreeable. I know you're all volunteers and share a common desire to do what's best for our community. We just may prefer different roads to the same goal, and I can respect that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Alcala. Councilmember Orozco, you cut off. Would you like to start from the beginning?
No, I think everybody had to hear what I had to say, but I'll continue my remarks if that's okay, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. I think where I left off, I was talking about the fact that we had secured miles of levee and made our city just a vibrant. And I wanted to say that we're in our ability to experiment. We're bold experimenters. We ask questions like, why not see what we can grow or ferment from urban gardening and from craft brewing if we could just give people and empower them with the power to try and chase their dreams? Why not make it easier for people to move around our city and attend college? Why not empower our homeless neighbors to empower themselves again and believe that full-time employment and permanent housing and even owning a car again, despite the years of being without, are still a possibility? We're a city of big ideas. I always liked the award-winning effort to change the life of every child in West Sacramento, that it was called the home run. Anything less than swinging for the fences just seems beneath us. And we do have a minor league designation, but could anyone doubt that we have a major league game in our region? We are the David Challenge. Plan of attack our city leaders map out, whatever vision or resources we bring to the table. Our driving force, our heart, has always been the kind-hearted and committed people, too countless to name, with too many contributions to do justice tonight. Just believe that you and your neighbors are why we always find the right rock at the right time to topple giant needs. When I think of our current council, our neighbors' endorsement of our leadership, without regard to historic obstacles of gender or ethnicity or race, it strengthens my faith in every West Sacramentan. Our neighbors form a living levee, elevating us, helping us see greater possibility and casting aside waves of division that find safe harbor in other cities, but not here in West Sacramento. We're too busy making our own waves so we can lift all boats, so we can make our community safer, to provide opportunities to succeed for every West Sacramentan, to help people enjoy and new and innovative ways to move around our city with new trails connecting our communities and helping our most exposed and vulnerable neighbors find warm and safe places to shelter. And most importantly, to enjoy the soul-affirming work of giving back to our community. Cesar Chavez once said, our ambitions must be broad enough to include the aspirations and needs of others for their sakes and for our own. And Gandhi must said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in service to others. I love these quotes because they overlap like fingers at a prayer to encourage us toward a sacred duty that, when fulfilled, enriches us all. I hope we never forget that while we are much different than the city of West of another time, the time of my youth and yours, that our stories remain bound together. We might be challenged by a global pandemic and social injustice, erosion of trust and connection, but with an open mind and heart, I believe we can cool overheated rhetoric and the oversimplification that turns neighbors not only into opponents, but to enemies. Friends, thank you so much for being here tonight. I just want to say that, we share this world in our, just for a brief picture. Will we spend our time focused on what pushes us apart, or effort, a sustained effort to find community with one another and to be the examples we seek for our kids, respect the differences, the diversity, and the dignity of all of the people in our mighty little city? We will be shaken from all the familiar narratives for sure, but it's precisely because of this discomfort that we learn to grow and harness power to make our city greater. I have no doubt continue to forge a path of opportunity for all of us, to be an example for our regions and the nation as we rise to the occasion. Why I look forward, emboldened, to the journey ahead with our city, our people, and all that I'm honored to serve and who I love dearly. And as I close, I want to say that my incredible husband, Jose, without whom my successes don't happen, my mom, who beams proudly with every undertaking I endeavor upon, and my 4 children who are my motivation every day in everything I do. My friends and supporters who believed in me and put their faith in my efforts to lead my city forward. As a child abuse and sex crimes prosecutor, council member, as a community volunteer, and more importantly, as a mother. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you, Councilmember Orozco. Councilmember Ledesma, would you like to take a moment to share a few words?
Sure. I was not prepared for that, but sure. Since I was not part of the festivities tonight, but I will wish my new colleagues, Mayor Guerrero and Councilmember Alcala, congratulations on your win. Appreciate all the work you put into the community, and welcome you to the council dais, the virtual council dais with us tonight. To my colleague for the last 4 years, I welcome back Councilmember Orozco, who served our community so well for the past 4 years and has led our community in so many ways. It is a different time. It's a different leadership. but we are the same neighbors. It's so good to see a lot of faces on the screen tonight, neighbors and friends that we don't get to see each other out very much anymore. But glad we can pull together tonight to celebrate our city and its new leadership. So, Mayor Guerrero, I turn it back to you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councilmember Ledesma. Well, my dearest city of West Sacramento and my friends here online, I'm so humbled by this honor to serve as your mayor. Thank you to all who are participating along with my extended family in virtual space and my parents from up above. As a city, we saw a great many changes this election season. And with that change, we welcome in the emergence of new energy and the opening of new doors. In this same spirit of gratitude, I offer a thank you to Christopher Cabaldon for giving many years of service, innovation, and talent to our city. I offer my congratulations to Councilmember Orozco on her reelection and welcome Councilmember Alcala. And a thank you to every candidate who looked at what it takes to run for public office and let their passion for people outweigh the hard sacrifices that come with running a campaign. I'd also like to thank the West Sacramento firefighters and the Sacramento Building and Construction Trades Council, the Sacramento Central Labor Council, National Association of Social Workers, the service of the faith-based community, and the many volunteers who supported the campaign, and my wonderful neighbors turned trusted friends. I know this was a tough year on so many levels, and even tougher if you choose to run for public office, to an already full plate of responsibilities to work and family. The civic discourse central to the democratic process, necessary and enlightening, can be hard on the heart and bruising on a soul level. When I look at the outpouring of love and concern we hold for one another and collectively for our most vulnerable, I know we have it within us to come together around our shared love for our community, our concern for our most vulnerable, and all of the public servants that come together to work to create this place we call home. Because we take this pandemic seriously, we break with tradition to hold another of our city's cherished events online instead of in person. Today, the California Department of Public Health confirmed that the Sacramento region has reached ICU capacity threshold to put our region under the state's new stay-at-home order. It is critical that we comply with all recommended precautions to reduce the spread of the COVID-19 virus. In Yolo County alone, we are seeing the test positivity rate exceeding 20%, with 89 people having succumbed to death, including 17 of our residents. Please limit all trips to essential travel, and when out in the community, please follow what it takes to be safe and wear a mask. Hope is on the horizon with the development of a vaccine, but meanwhile, let's do all we can to minimize loss of life and the negative impact on our local economy. In the last 2 years on council, I spoke of establishing the following priorities. With COVID-19, access to testing and vaccines, increase public participation to more closely mimic in-person participation, where the public should be able to offer live public comment when council is in session. Fiscal transparency and accountability, and ensuring public infrastructure is a key priority. Broadband connectivity to bridge the inequity of limited internet access, now vital to every aspect of life while managing through this pandemic. Youth and aging programs and childcare for working families. Economic protection and prosperity measures, which includes eviction protections to keep people housed both in the rental and foreclosure markets. Racial equity, ensure racial justice through the creation of a People's Oversight and Accountability Commission and the hiring of a police chief that will work in tandem with the community. Environmental justice to ensure that we are equitably allocating resources towards projects such as parks, trails, and bike paths, public transportation, and disadvantaged communities. This year has brought many challenges, and we face a future that may bring many more. But we are that city full of perseverance, so full of love, so ready to help one another. I have every confidence we will pool our wisdom, our knowledge, and our fortitude to get through whatever challenges we face as a community. I'm so grateful for everyone in the city administration, for all of our partners here joining us tonight. This is such an extremely important event for our future. And I promise you this, you will get with all my heart to accomplish what you have honored me with tonight to serve you as your mayor. Thank you. And now we have, I think, our next item on the agenda is the consideration of selection of the mayor pro tem. Ms. Berlin, do you have a presentation on this?
Thank you, Mayor Guerrero. I don't have a presentation. I will just turn it over to you to start the discussion.
Okay, thank you. This is a time when we select a mayor pro tem, and at the moment we are at a position where we just found out just shortly a week ago the results of the second sitting council member. And I wanted to discuss with the city council members what your decision is, if we can maybe postpone it over for another month so that we can take a look at this option further, or if you would like to make a decision tonight. So just wanted to open it up for discussion among the council members. Councilmember Ledesma.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm going to get used to that. Madam Mayor, congratulations again on that. And I appreciate the thought on that. And it is early yet, I think, in this cycle, or as we start this new term. I just would ask staff, I don't think there's any requirement that we don't have at the moment in Mayor Pro Tem. I think it's worth furthering some conversations on and how we approach this going forward. So I might agree with that. I just want to check with city staff if there's any ordinance that we have to have a Mayor Pro Tem at this time.
Right, and so I'll also bring our city attorney on here as well so he can give the legal answer. And I'll start. In the government code, it does indicate that once a council is seated, the expectation is that there would be a selection of a mayor pro tem following the seating. Now, it doesn't say if that doesn't happen, here's what happens. So I think as a practical matter, it can be something that can be deferred until we have the follow-up item later on the regular agenda about the discussion of the vacant council seat. So from staff standpoint, we don't see a reason why it couldn't wait, but I want to give Jeff an opportunity to speak as well.
Well, you've stolen my thunder, but technically state law does identify this meeting at the meeting at which the council should select a mayor pro tem. However, as the city manager mentioned, there's no particular penalty or remedy for failing to do so. And this is sort of an extraordinary year, and it's taken quite a while to get the final results. Mm-hmm. And so under the circumstances, I mean, as your lawyer, I will tell you the worst case scenario is somebody rushes off to court and the court orders you to appoint a vice mayor. And so that's sort of the outcome that would come from that. And so I think picking it up next month is probably a reasonable approach.
Thank you. Councilmember Ledesma?
No, I don't have any more comment. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Orozco, do you have any comments at this time?
I don't. I'm comfortable with putting off to the next meeting if need be.
Okay. Councilmember Alcala?
I'm having a bit of trouble with my audio, so I have both my phone as well as our computer. I also have no objection to waiting.
Okay.
Councilman,
I have no objection. I'm sorry.
If you mute your, there you go. There you go.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And is there any public, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Is there any public comment on this item?
No, we did not receive public comment for this item, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. closing the public comment, bringing it back to council. I would like to ask the city attorney, do we need to take any action or on this particular item? Do we need to take any action saying we're deferring it till the next?
I think a motion to continue this to the January meeting would be appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Orozco?
I'll make a motion this item to take it up in the January meeting.
I second.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, Councilmember Ledesma,
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco,
Aye.
Councilmember Alcala,
Aye.
and Mayor Guerrero.
Aye. Okay. And at this time, I think we are going to move to our next agenda. And I think we have, City Manager, do we have another Zoom link we will be jumping on for that meeting?
We do. So this is actually agendized as a separate meeting. So you would adjourn this meeting, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong here, and then move over to the other Zoom link, and that's where we normally have handled the meetings this way. So it'll be the same format we've had before. So for anyone that wants to see that meeting, I haven't checked the live stream status, but I know on Wave I was reported that it was working. I'm not sure about our website right now, but again, it'll be recorded and it'll be available I think tomorrow. So Jeff, do we need to adjourn or?
No, we're not really adjourning. We're just continuing on a different platform. So.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We'll end the Zoom call. So thank you everyone.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Would you mind, as we switch, giving us a time to take a short break and come back? And
that would be great. Let's return back at 8:15.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everybody's on? Okay, good. Thank you. So now we will reconvene the City of West Sacramento regular meeting of the West Sacramento City Council and West Sacramento Redevelopment Successor Agency and West Sacramento Financing Authority December 9th agenda. Pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20, members of the West Sacramento City Council and staff will participate in this meeting via teleconference to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Members of the public are asked to watch the meeting via live stream on the city's website or Wave cable. All comments received by 4:30 p.m. will be provided to the City Council and posted on the website. And as of this evening, the comments submitted should become a part of the record of the meeting, and the clerk will read comments for the specified item. Each comment will have a maximum of 3 minutes to be read. And if it goes over that period, the clerk will post the remaining statement on the city's public comments section of the agenda. And next on the agenda is item 1A, which are presentations by the public written via public comments on matters not included in the agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any items?
Yes, Mayor, we received a couple of comments for item 1A. They're posted on the website.
Okay, thank you. I would be interested in having them read at this point, all the public comments.
I think we were clear on the agenda that we're handling the public comments the same way we've been for the other meeting. So I would recommend we stick with that for this meeting, and we can discuss adaptions going forward. So,
all right.
In the interest of fairness for people that didn't submit comments, for example, we didn't say that we would do anything different for this meeting. So that'd be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much for that recommendation. I accept that. We'll move forward on to item 1B and ask again if there are any council communications from our designated assignments under item 1B. Okay. Next is item 1C, council appointments, reappointments, or removals from city and non-city boards and commissions, council intermediary representatives. We have the Library Advisory Board listed, and our clerk has additional information for members of the public who are interested in that appointment. In addition, we have extended the deadline to submit applications for appointments to next Friday, December 18th, on the city's appointment application portal. If you are having a difficult time being able to access the portal or complete the application, please contact the clerk for assistance to complete the form for that appointment. The council members will review the applications, and then reach out to meet with, via Zoom meeting, which is what I recommend, and interview the applicants, and they will provide me with their recommendations, and we will consider making those appointments at the January 20th meeting. So next item on the agenda is...
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Just a point of clarification on that. If you wouldn't mind having clerk or somebody outline that process back to us, how you
Sure.
wanted to handle this in the timeline, so that we have plenty of time to read through. I'm assuming we get hundreds of applications as we have in the past, which is terrific, but I just want to make sure we have time to get through them and make our recommendations to you. I think that's what I heard the process to be. Just the timeline.
Yes, the timeline. And I will ask our city manager to help with the timeline. I think you have some recommendations.
Yeah, I think what we can do is follow up with email to the council, kind of laying out the process. The main one you just pointed out, though, is that we are going to make the adjustment to the deadline for applications. It was going to be on Friday. We've actually extended it once already, but in an effort to get more applicants, we extended it, and we're extending it again until the 18th, next Friday. But in terms of the process, like I said, we can send that out. Generally speaking, though, once the applications are all received, the council eventually gets copies of them. The mayor makes the recommendations of the slate of commissioners, and then those have to be approved by the council. Our code indicates that it would have to be approved at the second meeting in January, although that's something that we feel that we can potentially push a little bit if needed, but that's the general process. But we can get something more detailed to the council members to go through the whole timeline.
And I think when we send out the information, which I think it'll be via email, we normally received a hard copy before, but it will be sent out via email so that, or do you recommend another way, or does anybody have any specific requests for that?
And you mean in terms of the actual copies of the applications?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good point, Mayor. I prefer if there's a way to confidentially, because I know that's public information, I guess, but save paper for me and just find the email packet that I can scroll through and review. And I just want to also be clear, Mayor, that if you're allowing us time to make recommendations to you, and then you'll come back with recommendations, right?
That's correct. I think once they close on December 18th, the staff will prepare a packet for each of you of all the applications we have received, and then give you an opportunity to review them and give me a feedback. I'll put down a schedule, speak with the city manager schedule so that you have a timeline on the email.
Yeah, and just for the city manager, I had a question, gosh darn it. The current commissioners are in place, correct? And I don't know if there's any meetings scheduled between now and the January meeting, but those all proceed as they were.
Right, until the new appointments are made, the current commissions would keep in place. And just on your point about whether the applications are emailed out or we can prepare a paper packet if a council member requests that, so that shouldn't be a problem. It's more about personal preference there. So yeah. I'll follow up with Mayor Guerrero about that process, but in the meantime, we'll also put together just kind of a basic outline of what the process is for all of you as a reminder, and for Councilmember Alcala for introduction to it as well. So we'll follow up on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions by the council members? No. Okay. Okay, next is our consent agenda. Are there any requests to remove an item for questions or presentation?
Yes, Mayor. I'm going to ask that item 10 be removed.
Okay. And is there a specific...
Yes, I actually reside in the Rivers Development.
Okay, thank you. So we'll have to have a separate vote for that item.
Yes.
Any other items? No. Okay. So then, if you want to accept the consent agenda, I'll accept a motion to approve everything but item 10, which we will have a separate vote for that.
I'll move the recommended actions on all items except item 10, right?
And I'll second.
Thank you. Councilmember Ledesma moved. Councilmember Rosca seconds. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Councilmember Alcala.
Aye.
And Mayor Guerrero.
Aye. Okay, now we'll take up the vote for item 10. I'll accept a motion for that.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moving ahead with the votes, Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
And Councilmember Alcala will abstain. And Councilmember Guerrero.
Aye. Okay. That is adopted. Next, we'll move to our time-set agenda item number 19, the Economic Development Housing Consideration of a Public Hearing and First Reading of Ordinance 21-1 regarding proposed development agreement with the Kind Project Investors, LP. Ms. Jacobson, I think who will be presenting?
Good evening.
Looks like we have Diane Richards.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Richards.
Good evening, Mayor Guerrero and members of the City Council. My pleasure to be here tonight to present information about the Kind Project. Are you able to hear me all right? I'd like to begin to share my screen. I have a 12-slide PowerPoint show.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, please. Can you share screen?
It's enabled. Go ahead.
It's enabled. Okay, thank you.
Again, it's my pleasure to be here tonight to present information to the council members about a new exciting housing development proposed in the Washington specific plan area. The Kind Project would be located on the south side of F Street between 4th and 5th Streets, a few blocks from the Department of General Services, the CalSTRS headquarters, Raley's headquarters, and Sutter Health Park. For many years, the city has envisioned and invested in the Washington District as a priority area for compact transit-oriented development due to its riverfront, neighborhood character, walkable streets, and regional job centers. The Kind Project achieves that vision by creating new apartment homes with a modern design that are also affordable and attainable through architectural design. The developer is Kind Project Investors, and the managing partner, Urban Elements, has extensive urban infill experience in California, in Sacramento, and in 2019 was named Green Builder of the Year. Julie Young is the managing partner with Urban Elements, and she is present in the Zoom meeting tonight for questions at the conclusion of my presentation. Some of you may be familiar with the Pushkin's building at 18th and Capitol and the Pushkin's Bakery building and homes at 24th and J Street. The Kind Project proposes 148 studio apartment homes arranged in 2 3-story buildings containing 74 units each. This view from 4th Street shows that the project has a very attractive frontage on F Street, and 122 of the apartments are about 288 square feet with 26 slightly larger homes of 324 square feet. The all-electric buildings are designed to be affordable to low and moderate income single-person households. The general plan density in this area is 80 to 120 units per acre, and the KIND project would achieve 110 units per acre, advancing the city's goals for compact transit-oriented development. This is another view of the KIND project from F Street, the walkway and courtyard that connects to the city's public sidewalk. It has a courtyard and interactive indoor-outdoor area. The site plan shown here allows you to see the extensive green space and community areas. It includes bike lockers, a dog park, a bioretention swale, and extensive indoor-outdoor amenity areas, including ping pong, a vegetable garden, and other recreational leisure activity areas for the residents. As you can see also, this has a parking lot on the 4th Street frontage, and the project is eligible for and received approval for reduced parking reductions of 50% for the Washington specific plan area, 20% for the affordable housing, and 5% for car sharing access. This reduced the required parking to 68 spaces. A further reduction of 29 spaces for being located in a transit priority area, access to shared parking. There are approximately 250 plus parking spaces in the Ziggurat garage 2 blocks away. And it also received credit for bicycle facilities inside the units so that the reduction is for a 39 space surface parking lot. This was noticed to the neighboring residents and was approved by the zoning administrator consistent with the city's zoning and parking ordinances. The city does not plan to issue any on-street parking for this project, but there is plans to have guest parking on street with time limits to be determined. Current enforcement in the neighborhood for time limited ends at 4 p.m. The city will reevaluate extending that time enforcement to later in the evening. Parking enforcement will be increased after the project is finished and will be monitored closely for impacts on adjacent areas and will adjust the parking management accordingly. We have many tools at our disposal to manage the parking. Again, here's a rendering of the 5th Street and F Street frontage. And an interior view of one of the larger studio apartments showing the mezzanine storage area. I wanted to highlight for you the affordability of this project. All apartments are in the affordable category for low and moderate income households for single person households in Yolo County. The $1,150 rent for the smaller units and $1,250 rent for the larger apartments includes electricity. And as you can see here, both of those rent rates are affordable to low and moderate income households. 85% of the apartments will be held at those rents for 10 years pursuant to the development agreement. And the 15% will be held to these rents for a period of 30 years through the affordable housing rental agreement. And again, both of these categories will be affordable to the low and moderate income households in West Sacramento. I'll briefly summarize the terms of the development agreement for you. Again, just reiterating, 125 homes will be affordable for 10 years through the development agreement. 23 homes will be affordable for 30 years, all of them at those same rents with a limit of 5% annual increases should the utility increases and other operating expenses occur that require that, a maximum of 5% increase per year. The other terms include a reimbursement of public offsite improvements for those improvements in the public right-of-way on 4th and 5th Street. The developer will be constructing all ultimate right-of-way improvements on 4th and 5th Street, including sidewalks, landscaping, decorative lighting, consistent with the Washington Realized Sustainable Community Strategy and the Washington Specific Plan. The parking lot will be screened more extensively, and a revised parking lot plan will be brought to the Planning Commission for review and approval within 90 days of the development agreement adoption, should the council choose to agree with staff's recommendation. One of the keys of this development agreement is the adjusted fee schedule. The fee schedule is necessary to enable the project to offer affordable rents and also to provide the sustainability and all electric and other mobility features that are included in the project. The city's fee schedules currently don't include micro units or urban scale transit-oriented development. It's really not addressed in the fee schedule, so the fee schedules tend to overburden these smaller units, making them infeasible. So the development agreement is a tool that we have at our disposal to use to assist this development to move forward and bring the benefits to the community, including sustainability, the micro-mobility features, the leisure amenities, as well as inclusive economic development for residents that won't need to be priced out of a rental home or living and be able to live, work in West Sacramento. Just to highlight for you a little more detail in the development fee schedule, we are proposing to reduce fees from $24,500 per unit to $12,300 per unit. And as you can see in the DA Exhibit B in Section 6, for 148 units, that's about $1.8 million. So it is a substantial fee right sizing. And I want to point out it's not really an assistance so much as it is calibrating and applying a proportionate rate to the fees that are actually in the fee schedule that really don't take into account this urban scale micro unit product that is being offered. It's a fairly new product in the marketplace, but this is a trend that the city will need to be able to respond to in order to continue to produce housing, affordable housing in our community. The city currently has a study underway of its facility financing methods and its competitive position within the region. The results of that study and proposed solutions will be coming back to the City Council for discussion, workshop, and recommendations on how to address this type of product in our fee schedules. A similar project in downtown Sacramento would have about $4,000 per unit in fees. In preparing the fee schedule, staff consulted with the Finance Division extensively to prepare the proposed fee adjustments and to really apply a proportionate rate based on the comparative size of these units, as well as the reduced impacts that these smaller units have, being that they're single-person households generally compared to a larger size household. Just to give you an example, this current city sewer fee is actually $4,850 for any multifamily unit, regardless of the size, the number of bedrooms, or the number of plumbing fixtures. So in terms of Kind's project, that's really an extensive burden that is really not correlated appropriately to the usage of a smaller unit. Again, the DA allows the city to adjust these fees until these housing types can be included in our fee schedules. So this is an interim solution that we're proposing right now so that we can attract this project to the city. The adjustments serve to right-size the impact fees to facilitate the affordability and the other community benefits that the Kind project would bring to West Sacramento. In conclusion, to summarize the benefits of this project for the city, it brings new modern housing near job centers to moderate income earners in the city. This neighborhood has extensive housing that is built before 1970. So we really need to have new housing in this community, and it also would be located near job centers, amenities, and services, and would reduce driving and conserve land and water resources. KIND also offers this hybrid model of affordability as well as attainable by design. The design of the project and the features and construction innovation with the cross-laminated timber materials actually make it a more affordable project by design, and therefore the subsidies are not needed to encourage the affordable housing. The inclusive economic development aspect really goes to rental product for our younger citizens and also single-person households in the community that actually can enjoy a very high quality of life, a modern design with lots of amenities right in the center of town near services, amenities, and job centers so they can live, work. And this is something that's very important to our community because we have a lot of people coming into town to work as well as people leaving town to work. And if we can reduce that and have more people that live and work in West Sacramento, the benefits are multiple. KIND builds on the city's investments in walkability, and it will reduce vehicle trips. We've built extensive bike lanes in the district, and this project will provide bike storage and repair stations on site, e-bike and e-scooter charging, and also car share access. This design and this density actually encourages transit use in this area. Lastly, the climate action plan goals of this project include that it's all electric, the roofs are solar ready, and there is ample on-site leisure areas, bioswales and green space, and extensive access to bicycling, walking, and car sharing. In conclusion, staff respectfully recommend that the City Council approve the development agreement with KIND project investors and authorize the city manager to execute the affordable housing agreement. This concludes my presentation. Staff are available for questions from the council, and the managing partner, Julie Young, is in the audience and is available to answer questions from the council and also make brief remarks if that pleases the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richards. I'm going to open it up to questions from council members.
Mayor, I did have some questions. The project sounds really wonderful. The units, how many people are they really designed to accommodate though? Each unit.
Good evening. Good evening, council member. This is Julie Young, and thank you for your consideration of our project this evening. The units are primarily designed for single person occupancy, but it is possible for a couple to share a unit.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Are there any other questions?
I'm sorry, Member, I'm trying to figure out the cadence we're going to go through here. So I do have some questions and comments, none for the applicant, but so when we get to sort of deliberation, is there a public hearing or open public comment on this? Or I'm just trying to figure out when.
So we'll start out with questions or comments by the council members, and then we'll open it up to the public hearing and then come back to council for further deliberation and discussion.
Okay, I'll wait. I'll go ahead and wait until after the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other questions, I'll open it up for the public hearing and ask Madam Clerk to see if there are any public comments.
Thank you, Mayor. We did not receive any public comments for this item.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring it back and close the public comment period and bring it back to council for further deliberation. Councilmember Ledesma.
Thank you. Thank you, staff, Diane, for bringing this to us. And yeah, I'm really supportive of kind of what I'm seeing. I do have some questions for staff around it. And I'll first say that the amount of public investment we put into the Washington neighborhood, this is what we envisioned as being able to, I think staff would agree, this is all the work we've been doing for the years through the Sustainable Communities Grant, so on and so forth, have allowed us to kind of have these kind of projects come in a kind of development ready area. So I'm happy to see that here. On the development agreement, and I understand the need to kind of manage fees for infill projects. What I'm also wondering is, as I was looking through the development agreement, are there performance standards or milestones associated with this project and the development agreement? In other words, that we're sort of reducing fees. It's a 10-year term. Is there an expectation of when kind of they'd be expected to move forward? Is there a time period that they would be pulling permits, that sort of work? Is there any sort of timetable that associated with, or granting them sewer credits and fees, which are fine. These infill developments need that, but we've also put a lot of public money in the other properties on the riverfront, and some landowners haven't got off on the right start or gotten off in a timely manner. So can you kind of address that issue for me?
Yes, Councilmember Ledesma, I'd be happy to do that. The developer is poised to move forward very quickly. In fact, at the risk of sounding too eager, they are actually in plan review as we speak. They are moving ahead with this first phase, which is 148 units, and at this time we don't know if there'll be a second phase, but the fees that we're proposing here in this development agreement are really for this first phase, which is 148 apartments. Okay.
And then is there any expectation, because there's no fees associated with the second phase, is there a timetable when we might see that a second phase come along? Is there a timetable for that?
There is not a timetable for that. The DA term is 10 years with one 5-year extension option. No additional commitments have been made for fees beyond this initial construction. And the thinking there is that we will have this study brought to the council, and we will have proposed solutions for the council to consider that will address the fee disparities, if you will, between urban infill and suburban-based development standards.
Okay. I understand, and that kind of leads. I appreciate, and I think where I'm going with that. I mean, we've been talking about the need for that to address the difficulties and cost of infill development, and I think Katie has brought that kind of looked at. I think a year ago, started talking about the need and how we might approach it. And I encourage it and look forward to that. I just want to make sure it sounds like what we're providing in terms of fee relief here would be consistent with somewhat consistent, close to what you might be proposing in the future. So again, I don't know if there's any methodology to what we provided by way of the fee reduction in this project. If that's something. Again, I worry about that. This will send a message to the market, either good or bad, about what our fee reductions will be and how much we're willing to give before city can actually enact a policy around it. If that makes sense.
Would you like me to address that, or?
I'd like you to comment. Yeah, is there some consistency or thought that went into the kind of the fee?
So these initial proposed adjustments are very simplistic in that, in consultation with the finance department, we examined the fees and how they're applied. So for example, the traffic fee is applied based on a particular size of unit, and I don't remember it offhand, but it's in the DA fee schedule. So we would compare this unit size to the unit size metric that is in that fee, and then we reduce this fee proportionately. So for example, if it was a 900 square foot unit for the traffic fee, and these are 300 square feet, we probably applied a 33% adjustment to this fee schedule for the DA. Similarly, the facility fees, the smallest unit size they take into account is 1,100 square feet. And so these units are roughly 320. So we applied, I think, a 2/3 reduction in those facility fees and applied a 32% fee for those. And that's all spelled out in the fee schedule that is included in the development agreement. The percentages aren't shown, but you can see that.
And I think yeah. And I think and again, it's not, I don't want to raise it to the level of concern, is that, and you know, this is a good marker because this project has everything. If we had a wish list at this holiday season for Santa, a project would come in with affordable housing. It would come in transit oriented. It would come in meeting climate change goals, which is all electric. I mean, this has all of it, and in an area that we have been focused on and putting public dollars to encourage this. So I'm supportive. I just want to also make sure that I guess I'm sending a marker forward about how, making sure it's clear the methodology we use. And as we look at this, we're setting an expectation one way or another about what fees will be in the future. And that's what I'm worried about, because I know this area has gotten looks before. I really believe, because of the nature of its location, because all is transit oriented, is if light rail drops here or bus service, whatever we can provide is all here. This is where we need it. So again, I'm supportive. I just want to make sure I put a marker there, a reminder for us that again, how we go about it. The other part too is I just want to again put a little flag around the use of inclusive economic development as a selling point around this project, and because it's a term that actually has policy related meaning or ramifications for us as a council, because in Measure N, we save some of that money for inclusive economic development, and it's not something that we have really in policy defined about how that money could be used. So I understand your meaning here is around it's bringing a level of development that welcomes low income, middle income, and work. It broadens the depth of housing which we need. But inclusive economic development is actually a policy point that I think is something that we had talked about defining as a council and with city staff. So because it has ramifications to Measure N. So I just wanted to make sure I just kind of circled down a little bit about how we use that term. So that's all I had, but thank you, and I appreciate you bringing this. And besides my questioning, which is really for staff, this is a project that in a site I know that would be great for the Washington neighborhood. And again, to all the points we made, supporting the local businesses there, I think it's a really good step. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ledesma. Councilmember Orozco.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My comments actually mimic Councilmember Ledesma's in a lot of ways. I want to commend the project presentation. Thank you. This type of project is clearly one that I appreciate, given that we're looking toward the future and trying to meet our climate action goals, climate change goals, and to invest in this area. I also recognize that there is an emerging trend for micro units, and that we are trying to target a particular subsection that hasn't necessarily been addressed. It's just that missing middle. the project itself is impressive. I'm appreciative of the fact that there's solar-ready roofs and bike charging station, electric vehicle stations. I had a chance to look this over and discuss it already and appreciate that this is hopefully the wave of future projects that we bring to West Sacramento. It's sustainable, it reduces our carbon footprint, and really does support the goals that we have set forth here as we move forward with the future of our city. Initially, I recognized that we had 148 studio apartments and 39 parking spaces, and recognizing that there's off-site the ZIG parking structure. But it did highlight the importance of ensuring that we have ready available transit options for people who decide to buy a home or relocate to West Sacramento with the expectation that they have the ability to move around. Now, whether that be via or jump bikes or scooters or gig or a light rail extension needs to happen because people need to get around. And ultimately, I appreciate that we are investing, that we're approving an investment with such high density. We are minimizing the use we're encouraging the better use of our land, reduction of water and reduction of energy, and it's remarkable. This is the highest density project that we have had to date in an area where we absolutely need to make investments. We need to bring people to the area. Couple businesses, were victims of COVID, but even before then, we had issues ensuring that people were able to get to our new and improved Washington district, and I'm excited about breathing some life into that area. So I'm supportive of this project. I appreciate the design and the presentation. A wall height window sounds very exciting, and I appreciate the thoughtful presentation, Diane. Thank you so much for your hard work on this.
Councilmember Orozco. Councilmember Alcala.
Thank you. You said there were going to be 148 units, and I know you've been talking about a fee differential. I know the hope is to bring people into the area, but we have so many people here that would fit that demographic, just being single people. A lot of the amenities sound fantastic. We do have a lot of seniors that live alone, but it also sounds like there would be a demographic of much younger cohort in there. So I'm just wondering if the fees were to be commensurate with the size of these units. I guess what I'm wondering is, if that were not to happen, would there be a price differential in the cost of these units?
Yes, absolutely.
And I can address that too, if you don't mind, Diane. It's an excellent question, because when you're looking at these micro units, to get them to pencil, typically in real estate, when you're putting numbers together, you're looking at things on kind of a price per square foot basis. And even with the fee reduction that we've achieved, which the city has frankly just been fantastic to work with, there's really a reason we're doing this project in West Sacramento. The innovation and the support and clarity in vision that we've had from economic development and engineering and planning and building has been wonderful. We've been working on this for almost a year and a half now. And the fees on a price per square foot basis average still, with these reductions, about $47 per square foot. And if you were to take that and translate that into a price per square foot and multiply that by a typical home, we would actually be paying much higher, even with the reduction, than what would be typical.
And I think I just would like to add on to that, the question about the demographic is really a way for existing residents to move into higher quality housing that they can afford. And I think that's the inclusive economic development aspect for me, is that it's higher quality living that is still affordable for many of our residents.
Well, and Diane, to your point, as much as I do agree that this will probably have attraction to a youthful occupant, we really look at this as also an age-in-place model. There are 26 ADA units on the ground floor, and the other remaining ground floor units are ADA adaptable. And the thing I really love about the attainable model is one of the things that I think is astounding is that we're actually less expensive on a monthly basis than affordable housing. I think that will be attractive to the residents. I think one of the challenges my partner gave me in this project was to make sure that we were creating an environment lovely and rich enough that it was not only something that could serve a phase of your life, but really all of your life. And I think that we've got to, I'm really proud of the project. I'm really happy that we're bringing it forward. It's actually being looked at as a case study by SACOG because, West Sac is welcome to the project, and we're thrilled with the investment in infrastructure and the things that West Sac has done over the years to be prepared for this project. Things like this don't happen in the span of even the 18 months we've been working on it. It is really the preparation that West Sac has done that has enabled this project an opportunity to meet the city at this time. So we really applaud the forward thinking and the vision that you've had to make the investments you've had. And we hope to do more of this product. We think it's timely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions by council members? No? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Richards and Ms. Young, for the presentation and for this proposal. I think it is an excellent project, and greatly appreciate the architectural vision that is forward-thinking. And Councilmember Ledesma knows, as being in our climate change council with the city of Sacramento, all of which is included in here, helps meet, our goals in city of West Sacramento. And in taking a look at, the ADA compliance, that was a question that came up among members of the audience in what I received. And thank you for that presentation as well, in letting us know. Looking at, that it did fit our planning for the future as, chair of the city's planning for 2035, the general plan document. It is something that we had envisioned for our future. And Councilmember Ledesma knows that this is something we've been working on as fellow planning commissioners for our future for a long time. And I greatly appreciate that we get to see this coming before us in our first city council meeting together. It is an opportunity for us to provide affordable housing and all the forethought that you have put together so that we can provide something economically feasible, because the cost of living is going up among housing units. And it's greatly appreciated that West Sacramento can be a model for our local jurisdiction to provide affordable housing for people that need it, and in a way that brings together a beautiful quality of life along our riverfront, so they can adapt to activities outdoors, and also, reduce the carbon footprint. Something we need to improve on is public transportation, and look forward to seeing what we can do to improve on that area for projects like this that are coming in to our city. And so just appreciate your partnership in working with us, and open the doors to see what else we can do here in the future together. So just wanted to take a look at the recommended actions to, that we have conducted the public hearing and find that the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act analysis under the Class 32 infill development projects categorical exemption under the California Code of Regulations, Title 14, Division 6, Chapter 3, Section 15332, and finds that the exemption reflects the independent judgment of the city as lead agency under CEQA, and directs staff to file a notice of exemption and waive the first reading and read by title and number only ordinance 21-1, attachment 2, approving the development agreement with the Kind Project Investors LP at 600 4th Street /429 F Street, and authorize the city manager to execute the affordable housing regulatory agreement consistent with the affordable housing provisions in the development agreement, and inform the audience that second reading and adoption of ordinance 21-1 is tentatively scheduled for January 20th, 2021.
I will think that's a cue to make a motion. I think. Okay,
motion?
Yes, I'll move the recommended actions.
I'll second.
Thank you. Councilmember Ledesma moved and Councilmember Orozco seconds. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Certainly. Councilmember Alcala.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
And Mayor Guerrero.
Aye. Thank you very much for all your hard work on this. All right, so we will now move to our regular agenda item, which will be our economic development and housing consideration of amendments to Housing Trust Fund program. And we have Mr. Ortega giving the presentation.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Guerrero and council members. My name is Elijah Ortega, and I'm here tonight to present to you item number 20, which are consideration of amendments to the city's Housing Trust Fund program. I'm going to take a moment here to share my screen, pull up my presentation here. Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the goal of this item is to bring our fee methodology for the Housing Trust Fund program up to speed with current zoning and urban design standards. The amendments proposed tonight are solely focused on the city's urban infill area fee incentive. The urban infill area map represents areas of the city that are more dense than suburban areas, are more complex and vibrant with overlapping layers of uses, ownership, and public and private features. Because of this, development in the urban infill area is more expensive and often requires incentives and subsidies. Higher density urban and mixed use development is inherently more costly to build. This is due to things such as structured parking, building materials, smaller project sites, and more complex project designs that incorporate mixed use. I'd like to now provide a breakdown of specifically where these amendments are being proposed. And before I begin with that, I'd just like to clarify as a point that the amendments proposed in this item are all technical updates to already existing city policy. So we can begin with Ordinance 14-4, which is the city's inclusionary housing ordinance. Ordinance 14-4 outlines the city's requirements that 10% of all newly built residential units must be designated as affordable. The way we ensure compliance with Ordinance 14-4 is through development agreements. Now, there's an alternative to this 10% requirement built into the inclusionary housing ordinance called the Housing Trust Fund program. And the Housing Trust Fund program is memorialized in the city's Book of Fees. This alternative allows developers to pay an in lieu fee that is a monetary equivalent to the number of units that would otherwise be required under Ordinance 14-4. The fee is adjusted annually and is currently just over $6,400 per unit. So, for example, if a developer would like to participate in the Housing Trust Fund program and is developing 100 new residential units, the fee would be calculated as $6,476 multiplied by 100, which would produce a Housing Trust Fund program fee of $647,000. Now, a developer's participation in the Housing Trust Fund program is approved by the City Council on a case-by-case basis. And the funds generated from the Housing Trust Fund program are used for gap financing of affordable housing projects or other city efforts in support of affordable housing projects, such as infrastructure improvements and site readiness work. Now we move on to the Urban Infill Area Incentive. And this is a discount to the Housing Trust Fund program. This discount is only applicable to developments proposed in the urban infill area. A map will be shown of the area in the next slide. The discount is meant to incentivize dense, urban-style projects in the city's priority waterfront areas, where development is much more costly than other areas of the city. The current incentive only applies to projects that are at or above 80% of the maximum density allowed in the zone. And while this methodology has worked in the past, with the adoption of the new general plan in 2016, zoning maximums in the waterfront and other areas of the city were increased, meaning that the 80% threshold to receive an urban infill area incentive discount was increased as well. So, for example, as you can see in the table at the bottom right, the previous threshold to receive a discount in the waterfront was 40 units to the acre. And after general plan adoption in 2016, the zoning maximum doubled. And so the threshold to receive a discount was increased to 96 units to the acre. And just for a point of reference, the most dense housing developments in the city are in the 50 to 70 unit to the acre range. The West Gateway Place apartments on Tower Bridge Gateway, for example, are considered high density, and those are 66 units to the acre. And so it's for this reason that since 2016, the urban infill area incentive has been effectively obsolete. The amendments proposed tonight are amendments to the methodology of the urban infill area incentive. And the goal of the amendments is to allow for the incentive to serve its original purpose of incentivizing dense urban development in the city. And I'll go on here to show a map now of the urban infill areas. Again, the incentive only applies to this specific area of the city, which consists of 3 zoning districts: waterfront, central business district, mixed-use neighborhood commercial, and residential 3. A discount to the Housing Trust Fund program fees is not available in any other area of the city. So again, as I mentioned earlier, Ordinance 14-4 was updated in 2014 to allow for in lieu fee payments to meet affordable housing requirements. And these payments that are collected are deposited into the Housing Trust Fund and are used for gap financing that has helped to realize a number of new affordable housing projects in the city. Over time, staff has learned that requiring projects to meet 80% of maximum density was always difficult, and the changes to general plan in 2016 made the incentive nearly impossible to provide for its original intent. Now, the current density calculation is done as you would typically do in a suburban setting, which is to divide the number of housing units by gross acres. This calculation is simple, but it does not capture the complexity of an urban setting. And it also does not provide an incentive to build features that complement the housing units, such as ground floor commercial or open space. The proposed methodology for calculating density in the urban infill area going forward will address the complexity of high-density urban development. it will recognize the value of non-residential uses, and it will respond to the 4 different zones in the urban infill area. Additionally, it will provide clear guidance to staff and developers. So the proposed methodology calculates a net project area by removing things such as public park and open space, public rights of way, major public facilities, restricted lands such as flood setbacks, and public parking structures. So deducting these areas from the gross project area increases the project's calculated density. Now this here is a page from the density handbook that was produced to help guide city staff and developers through the calculation. The areas in tan represent areas of the site that are used in calculating density. The areas in blue represent areas that are eligible to be deducted from the calculation. So for example, the image in the top right is actually a local example. It is the courtyard located in the 980 Central Apartments in the Bridge District. This is an example of private open space, meaning it is meant for use by residents of the apartments and not particularly for public use. So this kind of project feature would not be eligible to be deducted under our proposed amendments. However, we can compare that now to the public plaza. An image is provided at the top of the diagram here. And you can see this would represent an area of public open space, meaning it is meant for use by the public. It incorporates features like seating, and therefore it would be eligible to be deducted from the site area. The handbook outlines many more project features and identifies them as eligible or non-eligible for deduction. But I hope that the diagrams here help a bit to visualize how removing specific project features can bring the net density of a project up. So the vision for the urban infill area is urban scale, high density, and mixed use districts. Characteristic of this vision are project features such as ground floor commercial and podium or structured parking. We are proposing that project features such as retail, office, or medical space and structured parking receive a dwelling unit equivalency, as opposed to just removal of the square footage of this space. And the reason that this is proposed is because the DUE approach, dwelling unit equivalency, is more representative of the costs associated with these kinds of features in a project. So, for example, every 769 square feet of retail space in a project would be converted into 1 DUE, dwelling unit equivalent. And you can see the calculations for office and medical uses here as well. And these calculations are based on the amount of traffic generated by these uses as outlined in the ITE trip generation manual. So just as an example, if a high density residential project has ground floor space for say a cafe or a coffee shop, the square footage of the leasable space there would be eligible for conversion into DUEs. The square footage of the resident lobby, for example, or the ground floor hallways would not be counted. And this is because we're seeking to recognize the use that is providing a community benefit and the use that is generating activity. So this again is a page from the density handbook, just outlining the conversion rates again for retail, office, and medical space. So DUEs are also being proposed for parking structures. And this conversion was based on the construction costs of residential dwelling units versus the costs of structured parking spaces. So our consultant that helped along with this project looked at a variety of studies to identify a proper conversion, which was finalized as 0.11 DUE per structured parking space. So this means, for example, that a parking structure with 180 spaces would be eligible for conversion into 20 DUEs. Now this slide here shows the workbook that was produced to allow staff and developers to calculate their adjusted net densities for their projects. So you can plug in all the details and square footage of your project here, and it will output the adjusted net density. So now, if you'll recall at the beginning, I mentioned that under the current program, projects must meet 80% of the maximum density allowed in the zone to receive a discount on their fees. We have now identified new density targets that work from the minimum density upwards, as opposed to a percentage of the maximum density. And this approach was checked against already built residential projects in the urban infill area. And we did that to ensure that the new methodology that is being proposed to you tonight is producing the desired results that we have for the incentive. As a result of that test, 8 of the 11 residential projects received an increase in their net density, and 6 of the 11 projects would now qualify for fee reductions as compared to 2 projects under the current program. And I have an example here next, which is the West Apartments project. So we ran our proposed methodology for that project. And that project went from 79 dwelling units to the acre to 125. And that was when project features such as open space, structured parking, and non-residential uses were accounted for. So this project would not currently be eligible for a housing trust fund program fee reduction under the way the current program is structured. And that's a problem because this is the kind of project that represents the vision that the city desires in the waterfront district, it being high density residential with community features to complement. So now under the proposed amendments, the project would now receive an 80% reduction in fees. And this better represents, again, the goal, the ultimate goal of the urban infill area incentive. So again, here's an example and some tables. And you can see here the tiered approach that has been produced for the proposed fee discounts. So previously, as opposed to a flat 80% reduction, projects can now receive 20, 50, and 80% fee reductions based on their adjusted densities. And again, this tiered approach to the fee discount better represents the ultimate goal of the urban infill area incentive, and that is to provide the greatest fee discount to the most dense projects while still recognizing the value of those at mid densities. What impact will providing fee discounts like this have on the Housing Trust Fund? So while this does mean that the amount of funds generated from in lieu fee payments will be reduced, we have to keep in mind that this only applies to projects in the urban infill area. Again, no discount is being offered to the Housing Trust Fund program fees in any other area of the city. And really, the trade-off here is to provide a fee discount to projects that help further the ultimate vision of the urban infill area and contribute to the urban environment that is sought for this part of the city. So I'll go ahead and end now with a few takeaways. It's important to keep in mind that the amendments proposed tonight offer a discount on one portion of a larger package of fees associated with building in this part of the city. Again, the ultimate goal of tonight's item is to allow the urban infill area incentive to provide for its intended purpose of encouraging projects that further the vision of dense, mixed-use districts that also provide community benefits in this part of the city. That concludes my presentation, and myself, along with Mr. Raul Huerta, Housing Program Manager, and Eric Norris from our consulting team, are available to answer any questions that the council may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Bring it back to council if you have any questions. No? Okay. You do? Councilmember Ledesma.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thanks for the presentation. And I'm generally supportive of kind of where we're going for, what we're going for in I guess, readjusting or refining the Housing Trust Fund. The concept I'm trying to get past, and others can chime in from staff, is because if you put the slide back up at the end around the range of densities, with the new calculation, we're offering a minimum density. We'll get, at the lower end, they'll still get a 20% reduction, and then it tiers up as you get a higher density. So this is when I aged myself, because part of the challenge we've had in the Bridge District and in other areas in the project area that's defining this is getting densities up. And it's always been a challenge for doing the best we could to encourage higher densities. And it does this, but the question I have is at the 20% level, again, not knowing the math well enough about how that converts to a project today, would we be giving reductions to those right? That we I'm trying to get the concept right. I'm sorry, but at that lower end, would we incentivize a bunch of people to go at a minimum level and get some discount versus none? I'm not sure if I'm making sense, so feel free to call me on that, Elijah.
Certainly. So again, under the current program, you have to reach 80% of the maximum density to receive an 80% reduction on the fee. And what we're proposing is a tiered approach wherein you would be eligible to receive a 20% or a 50% or an 80% reduction, right? And the way we did that, and we structured it that way, is because we wanted to essentially flip it, right? So we wanted to assess this. Instead of saying you have to meet 80% of a maximum, we wanted to flip it and go from the bottom up, if you will.
Right. Well, I guess the question I'm asking is the bottom too low, right? Because if you set an incentive too low, and I would have to watch, because you gave me how many would qualify, but the challenge we've had, I think, is just I think what you're saying is getting any interest in this, the use of this program isn't difficult because it's such a high hurdle to meet. And I get you're trying to balance it out by deducting uses that aren't related to the residential units themselves and giving them credit even for those spaces. I understand the concept, but what I'm concerned about is a negative effect, which would be people we're lowering the aim, right? They're going to come in low. They'll still get a 20% discount when we really encourage them to go as dense as we could, because the concept of the Bridge District, particularly, and even the Washington neighborhood, it's all based on transit and getting densities there to sustain itself, right? And I'm again, is it? You could say no, we should be, or somebody from staff can chime in. And I'm just trying to get comfortable with that fact, and that you have people who would not have, 80% was a high bar, but now that 20% I get something, they're going to start aiming lower because they can, and they even get a discount for it. I'm not sure if I think, did we lower the bar? And it could be no, I just don't know the answer to that.
If I may chime in.
Looking at me like I'm crazy, but I'm just want to make sure.
Go ahead, Raul.
What I was going to suggest, I believe that we have a list, Elijah, if you could pull up the slide. We went through the process of calculating what type of benefits existing projects that already have been built in the Bridge District. If they went through the process now, what type of a discount they would have, or they would get based on the new proposed incentive structure. So this gives you an idea of what type of densities we would be looking at, again, because we would be providing the dwelling unit equivalents to some of those projects, or netting out some of the amenities. So this gives you an idea of what projects would get the percentage reductions.
Yeah,
it may help.
It does, right? Because Ironworks as the example, right? There were some, although we that was approved by the Planning Commission, which again, I'm aging for myself, approved that it was high density, we thought, but it actually, you look at this, it's really not, right? It's like, so it gets a little bit of a boost. Right, and I just don't want, I'm trying to see where the 20% eyeball, where the 20% reduction comes in. It's still,
Elijah?
What I don't want is a bunch of, if we saw a list in 10, 20 years, the list is at all 20% and people came in at the minimum amount when they could have been going to a higher density.
Correct, and that's certainly a challenge. And these percentages are obviously not set in stone. Perhaps what we could also propose is, if the council is comfortable enough with these proposed percentage discounts, we could always report back in say a 12-month period to see what kind of projects have gone through the pipeline, and then adjust those percentages, or we could adjust them further before this gets adopted. They're certainly not set in stone. I think was our best estimate based on the projects that have already been built and running them through that new methodology, and trying to get an idea of the type of project, the densities that we want to see. But again, these percentages are not set in stone, and we could always report back to the council, or if you feel that we need to adjust them up or down, we can certainly do that as well.
If I could chime in just to point out a fact that was already stated in the presentation, but it's very relevant here. So I have some background on this program dating back to the beginning. When we adopted the program originally, it was under the old density requirements of the general plan and the bridge district, and it was a lot different. Elijah pointed it out that we have since raised that to a much higher maximum. So in order to achieve the density that would trigger the incentive, whether it's 80%, 20% on down, the base density is much higher. So I think that chart that they showed really demonstrates the difference, because if we had put that same chart up under the old paradigm, then some of those projects that you would have made scratch your head, like should they really get the discount, would have applied. So I would back up the recommendation that Raul just made of sort of giving this some time to have further analysis, because I do think the density factor, the fact that it was raised much higher, is a very significant change from when we originated this program.
Well, the methodology itself encourages the fact by you're coming up with a DUE calculation, where it takes into account, encourages retail, mixed use. You had me at that, right? Because I think that's the challenge we're going to have. I just don't want to. Again, I think it's an area of caution Raul, thank you for chiming in and kind of thinking of my opinion, and I'm supportive of this. I think we'll have to just watch it and see as development comes in that it's just not. It's a race to the bottom of trying to get as least amount of density as you can, just to get a 20% discount. And right, that's what I'm worried about, because again, the whole project area you're talking about has been planned for densities and planned for that would support transit. And so lessening of that is I don't want to say it's a risk here, but we got to keep an eye on that. So those are my comments. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Ledesma. Councilmember Orozco.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Elijah, for your very clear and well-presented presentation to all of us. My comments are along the lines of Councilmember Ledesma's, but a little bit different. Clearly we have the example with West that went from 79 DUEs, but what under the new calculation would be 125. And I'm wondering if it's possible for projects to be, and this is a bad word for it, but like exaggerate, and it's not exaggeration, but I mean, under the new formula, one could have a lot fewer dwelling units, but say compensate with parking spots or open space, which is an amenity that I think is very valuable. But as you can see, this tipped it over to the 125 DUEs per acre. And, it's probably really actually 79, right? And so, the trade-off is here is that, I want more money into the housing because I want that money to be used for housing. And the more money we have for affordable housing, the more, good we can do for the people who need housing at that level. But I also development in high density in this area. And I know it is specific to the area, so it's not just citywide, the discount. But I agree with the suggestion because I don't know if 80% is too high. I mean, what does that mean? Are we getting a trickle into our housing trust fund after everybody seems to get the 125 DUEs per acre projects because they're like, well, I'll incorporate, just a few more parking spaces or open space areas. I appreciate it, especially the open space and the mixed use retail concept, but I just want it to be true to the intent with respect to this region. And so I think revisiting it would be important for us because we might need to adjust that back, whether it be on the low end or on the high end.
Thank you, Councilmember Orozco. Councilmember Alcala.
I just had one question. This reduction in fees, how would that be passed on to the consumer?
Well, I think that that could be answered in a variety of ways. But again, the focus here is again, this is a reduction on one small fee that is a part of a package of fees, right? And so the hope is that if we can encourage things like mixed uses and open space and get these projects a discount on this one specific fee, it would help and potentially could be passed on to the consumers via rent prices potentially. But I think, again, the goal is to help with this discount, help projects pencil in other areas and ultimately bring them off the ground and bring us good quality projects in the urban infill area.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Alcala. That was a good question. And just want to thank Mr. Ortega for the presentation. I believe you've been a graduate of our Summer Steps program and here today doing an excellent job in preparing this presentation, doing all the background, knowing that our city manager initiated this particular program and now you've carried it on, shows you have an incredible future ahead of you. There's quite a bit of complex intricacies on doing the Housing Trust Fund program. It's a program that I have valued so that, as Councilmember Orozco said, to develop affordable housing here in the city, a funding source that we're looking to preserve and grow in the future. And as Councilmember Ledesma pointed out, just a concern in the other side is making sure that we have the density along the riverfront as what was proposed in the past. And in taking a look at Mr. Huerta's comment that we could potentially revisit this in the future, seeing where we're at. But your latest comment, Mr. Ortega, is that it does eventually pass down in lowering costs to the consumer if we can take a look at giving them an incentive or reduced, share of that. So I think that information is extremely helpful in including what I would consider supporting affordable housing in the future for those projects that could be developed in the future there. And just want to thank you for all the hard work you put into this and the team effort to be able to get this moving forward to where we're at today. So the recommended action, the staff respectfully recommends that the City Council receive staff's presentation on the proposed amendments to the urban infill area incentive and the HTFP and vote to adopt the proposed amendments to the urban infill area incentive in the HTFP. So I would like to find out if there's interest in a motion in this.
I move.
I would second, but also with the directive return in a year to evaluate the structure and whether or not it's working appropriately. I don't know if it needs to be in the motion, but I just wanted to make
I would recommend that it be in the motion. Councilmember,
I can amend the motion.
Thank you. And okay, with that amendment, is there any time that you suggest, Mr. Huerta, to bring it back?
You know, I think projects certainly take a while to go through the pipeline and through the process. 12 months at a minimum, I think would be adequate. I think anything sooner than that probably wouldn't give us enough time to you know, get a project through this process. So if the council is okay with that, I would recommend that at least within the initial or after 12 months, returning with some information or proposing, presenting what projects have gone and what discounts they have received. That would be my recommendation is at least 12 months so that we have an opportunity to go through some projects.
Okay. Okay.
I know, and I know of at least one project that is waiting and for this update to happen. So I know that we have at least one project in the pipeline that would probably have to go through this, but there may be others as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Huerta. Councilmember Alcala, would you like to put a time frame on your motion so that we can have it returned back to us in about maybe 18 months? I think that might be giving them a little more time to be able to review it and prepare a report back to us. Councilmember,
yes, I will make that amendment to 18 months.
Okay. And is that okay with you, Councilmember Orozco?
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Councilmember Alcala.
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
And Mayor Guerrero.
Aye. Motion passes. And we move on to the next item, which is consideration of options to fill a vacancy on City Council. And Ms. Berlin, do you have a presentation on this item?
Good evening, Mayor Guerrero. I don't have an express presentation, but the staff report before you, it does provide a background on what the fact that we do have a council vacancy and a couple of options that are up for discussion tonight for the council to determine how to fill that vacancy.
Okay, thank you. And so the purpose is to take a look at the City Council vacancy that I've created now that I'm mayor, that we can take a look at who can fill that vacancy. And thank you for the report. Yes.
I'm sorry. You know, I've received a lot of emails from the public, and our community really is requesting an open, transparent, and democratic process for filling the vacant City Council seat. So, you know, I want to make a motion that we should accept applications and be able to interview those willing to fill that seat.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Alcala. We'll start. We'll start off with other comments as well. Thank you, Councilmember Alcala, from other members of council for discussion. Councilmember Orozco.
Open, transparent, and democratic is listening to the will of the people, the will of the voters. Just a month ago, we had the opportunity to witness an election process that was historic, the most voter turnout than we have seen in the history of West Sacramento. Regardless of the process we eventually decide to employ in filling this 5th vacant seat, I want to remind my colleagues that I just heard from the voters loud and clear, and there's nothing that could be more transparent of the voters. And in the will of the voters stated that Dante Early West was their choice. 8,100, over 8,100 votes. That's more than even the winner in our last 2018 council race, and the 4th highest vote getter in the history of our city in a 5-way council race. I think it would be irresponsible and tone deaf for any of us to turn our backs on what the voters have just told us. For us to have believe that we somehow have the ability to overrule what they have decided through their vote. They went and cast a ballot. However, they might have mailed it in, they might have came in person, they might have dropped it in a mail slot, but what they did is they voted, and we asked them to do that because we wanted to hear from the voters. And it seems a bit disingenuous for us to say, well, thanks anyway for going out there and telling us who you wanted. We're going to just ignore that and make that decision on our own because we know better than you. So I say that if we are real, true servant leaders of our community, if we are actually voices of the community like we say we are, we have to give sincere consideration and not be irresponsible, not cheat the voters of their voice. These people vetted, they challenged, they questioned, they held accountable, they evaluated, they raised money for, they donated their money, and they listened to the candidates in an open forum in a debate process through the Chamber's Candidates Forum. And based on that information, they chose. And I'm very certain that the argument of this council would be the same one had the 2nd and 3rd vote getters pitched. And frankly, I think it would undermine the public trust for us to assume that we are bigger than the voice of 24% of our community members who said that Dante Early West was the appropriate candidate, and that's who they wanted. And if we're talking about supporting diversity and minority voices and getting representation in our city, we have the opportunity to have the first African-American council member in our city. The voters said they wanted that, and I think we need to respect that. It's a respect for the democratic process, and doing anything other would be an erosion of our democracy and ignorance. Thank you, Mrs. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Roscoe. Councilmember Ledesma.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think that's we were all elected here by our residents and neighbors and friends under a democratic process. And I believe that this election, just a historic election on all the counts that Councilman Orozco just pointed out, was historic in many ways. And Ms. Dr. Early's candidacy was certainly one, certainly that was historic as a council candidate, let alone the possibility of being a council member, the first in our community. And I think the voters, we have a new council, and the voters chose that, and we respect that, and we welcome both our new colleagues here who were rightly voted in. And I think my preference is, with these comments, pretty open and transparent. And I think that's the way I felt today. And I think that's respecting the will of the voters is something that I will think about, because that is truly the most democratic process we have. I do want to say that as a new council, it's apparent, I think we all have differences of our opinions. And I think this process of how we get to a fifth member of this council, it's important. It's important. The city, the business of the city, the voters entrust us with that first and foremost, to carry on the business of the city. And we will need to find a way to do that. I understand, I've seen the comments, I've seen the emails, and I'm listening to residents, and I may disagree with you, some of the residents, about who you think it should or should not be. But we will have to get a process to where we can get to a majority vote of these four, or these of us four, how to get there. That is our most basic duty on this council. So I agree with Councilmember Orozco that this is about process tonight, whatever the process may be, and we will have to come back and come with a process and keep in mind what the voters just said. But I think we will need to have people, whoever those will be, apply. We will need to come up with a process of how we come back to this council and find a way to agree on that person, because in the end it takes 3 votes, and we will need to have a process to get there. So one way or the other, that's what we'll need to do.
Thank you, Councilmember Ledesma. Any more comment before we go into public comment? Okay.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say we have when I was on the school board, had a vacancy, and we did use the application process. We found it to be very methodical. We felt there was due diligence when we did that, and it never negates anyone from being able to apply.
Thank you, Councilmember. And yes, go ahead, Councilmember Orozco.
Thank you. I agree. I think that our council has the application process on 3 occasions and has been successful in a 3rd member. That said, I think those were unique. This is a dissimilarly situated election or appointment process because of the recency of the election. In those cases, we had folks that were some of their term, and I'm just making the point that because of the recency of the election and the narrow margin between the 2nd and the 3rd, that it seems it would be irresponsible for us to not consider that as a tremendous factor when we are moving forward in trying to obey the will of the people. These folks, again, even through the application process, were not vetted by our community, and they did not go through the work of trying to share their messages and represent the folks. And we're not talking about the 5th highest vote getter. We're talking about the 3rd, and there was only a margin of 89 votes that separated the winner and the 3rd vote getter. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Orozco. And just to add that the campaign process did occur, and we have our 2 candidates that succeeded. That was what the campaign was about. And this process is an appointment process, which we are asked as council members to look at and figure out what process, as Councilmember Ledesma has referenced, how we are going to go about it. And I am interested, as well as we have done historically in the city, both on the school board and both on council, to go through an application and then decide from there. There have been interviews and also an appointment from a number of applicants, and taking a look at how we can come to a conclusion. There may be an opportunity to come to a conclusion. I would like the opportunity to be open among those that are not given the chance to go through a campaign. Financially, it is very burdensome. And there are candidates, especially if those candidates are endorsed by incumbents that receive the benefit of contributions, who will be able to have a stronger campaign than others. And that's here in West Sacramento. A campaign does take a lot of work. It does take financing. And so without that, it gets really hard for the voters to be fully aware of all the candidates. And I have, spoken with a number of people out in the community on their interest as to whether or not, and also review the public comment, which I'll be asking the clerk to reference quickly here. But and it is for public view. But it is something that I have taken a look at closely, as what we have done historically, which I find to be an honorable and responsible process here. And if we do not come to a conclusion, this is definitely going to be a difference between possibly two council members going one way and the mayor, maybe a council member going another way, or it could be different. I'm hoping that we can come to a conclusion in accepting an applicant and then moving forward as a council member with 5 members here. But the alternative is to call a special election for November 2nd, 2021, and the seat will remain vacant until then. And that is the option number 2. And so I'm going to now open it up for public comment. Madam Clerk, do you have any public comment on this?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we received about 25 public comments for this item.
25 public comments. I think that the public, bringing it back, I'm going to close the public comment section, bringing it back. I think
did we lose Karina, Councilmember Carrasco?
I don't know what happened to her.
I believe we may have. I was just looking at the list of participants, and I think she's back now.
Oh, she's back.
Let me double check that. There she is. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Karina, I don't know if you heard, we closed public comment and we're back now for the deliberations and to determine what are going to be our next steps. I think that, Councilmember Alcala's motion is on the table still, and to move forward for an application process. Councilmember, would you repeat your motion request?
My motion was to start accepting immediately applications to fill the vacant city council seat.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember,
I just want to clarify if we can take a little more comment, because there's no process defined here, right?
Correct.
There's past practices. It's happened twice, and not in circumstances like these. So where we're 30 days out from an election. So again, I'm not. The previous instances were the immediate vacancy during middle of term of folks, not necessarily this situation. So, and I just wanted, Madam Mayor, I just want to say I've heard from constituents too, and talked to others, and there's clearly a difference of views here. There's clearly a difference of approaches that are being suggested, right? So I'm not, right? I understand your point that you talked to a lot of people and you studied it. Others have too. And we've heard their voices. And the fact is that an election just occurred where congratulations to you both for winning that election. And but there was another candidate who many more voters than voted for me or you 2 years ago, Mayor Guerrero, received that. And I just don't want to dismiss that democratic process. And I understand that we're going to have to find some process, some way to achieve getting a 2-2 council here and respect those voices as well. And that's the part that I want to make clear. I'm not, if I agree to going forward and getting applications to know who is interested, there's no set process here. And about this is an appointment that I understand best practice. The practices we had twice and by school board. But you know, that this is where we are elected. The voices of our citizens were loud and clear. As I said, I welcome you both here. And that was a process. So again, I just don't want a large constituency dismissed. And I'm acknowledging the very obvious here, my colleagues, and to our neighbors, right? There's a divide opening here over how this should go about, or who it should be. And I think while I acknowledge that the campaign is over, again, their choices were made, and a third one could have been made, and we could make that choice today. As leaders, elected leaders, we are given the authority and the right to do that. But it takes 3 of us, and we're not going to achieve that today. That's obvious. So again, we can take applications, but I reserve the right to have us say what that process would be. And because I know who my preference would be at this moment, and there's no other names that I would consider outside of that. And so we're not going to get anywhere tonight. And we're going to have to figure out how to get through this.
Thank you, Councilmember Ledesma. Councilmember Orozco.
I'd like to make an alternative motion. That would be to appoint a subcommittee from our current council to discuss options with respect to process and return to the next council meeting for presentation and potential options.
And considering that, I would like to join that recommendation with Councilmember Alcala is to accept applications. There are higher number. There's 8,000, but there's also 52,000 residents here in West Sacramento, and we represent the entire community. And I think it would be irresponsible if we did not do our due diligence in allowing the community as a whole to give them the opportunity to review who are potential candidates for our city. I think that the election that did happen, I know it's hard work, and I've also been an applicant at the school board and on city council, did not receive those appointments, but I did my part in running for council, and I did, at a certain point win. So I think that I've valued the process of a campaign and continue, and that's just part of our public process to run a campaign. But here on city council, we have an opportunity to look at how we select through the application process and include that as part of the subcommittee, so that the subcommittee can take a look at applications and make a decision. If there is a member of among those applications, to come back with maybe several, maybe 3, for example, for, I'm flexible on the number here, so that we can present this back to council to make a determination from there which ones we can agree on the January 20th meeting.
With all due respect, Madam Mayor, as the highest vote getter in this last race, I'm perfectly aware of the voters' intent and having the opportunity to speak with folks and win over their votes. That stated, we can't say out of the same mouth that voters did get a chance, and we respect the process of the campaign when we are trying to ignore the process of the campaign and the will of the voters at the same time by not considering very highly that the will of the voters is that the 3rd highest vote getter should take the seat. Going another route by saying that we as 4 council members have a bigger say and a better mind and better values to judge what the voters want is specifically hubris. It's arrogant and it's irresponsible in doing it.
Is there an alternative motion, or is there a second and then we take a vote on, we will, but first we have council member, I'll call his motion. And is there a second? Well, I will second that motion. And let's call.
If I'm appointed, I just wanted to be clear. Did Councilmember Orozco make a motion?
Councilmember Alcala made her first motion. I
understand, but I'm also asking if Councilmember Orozco had.
We can take a vote on that motion, but I also asked for an amendment, but I don't think Councilmember Orozco is interested in an amendment to that process.
I'm sorry, could you just clarify what the amendment was?
It was to accept, your motion was to take a look at a subcommittee to decide and come back on January 20th for a process on selecting a candidate or selecting a council member. And in that process, I suggested adding Councilmember Alcala's motion, which is to open the process up for applications for the subcommittee to return back with a number of candidates for the full council to vote on.
I think that question to you, Councilmember Orozco, but
I would be open to that amendment to the subcommittee.
I'm sorry?
I was saying I would be open to an amendment to my motion for a subcommittee to review applications.
And suggest a process.
And suggest a process to obtain the city manager's guidance on the process and also review the applications and possibly come back with a certain number of candidates for the full council to decide.
Councilmember Ledesma, did you have a comment?
No, I'm soaking it all in, Council. Okay, I understand. I just want to understand clearly what the amendment was, and yeah, I'm good for the moment.
Are you okay with the Councilmember Alcala's amended motion?
Again, can you restate, Councilmember, just to restate one more time?
I'd say we have an application process where people will submit applications to fill the vacancies. I believe the amendment was to have a subcommittee and get recommendations, of course, from the city manager on the process.
Okay.
Then it would come before the board, the recommendations made by the subcommittee.
So take applications and have a subcommittee review it, and we'll coordinate with the city manager on the process to return back to the full city council and decide on the selected candidates that have been reviewed.
Allowing applications automatically assumes that there's a process in place as opposed to getting in front of it and saying, okay, this is the process. Now we would accept applications if in fact accepting applications is the process that's decided. I just don't want to put the cart before the horse here. My motion was to have a subcommittee decide about what process we should employ and bring those recommendations before the council. If that process is in fact taking applications, then I suppose that's what we agree upon. But if we're taking applications before we even decide on a process, I'm a little confused about what the process then is.
The alternative process that we can come back from the subcommittee is to call for a special election for November 2nd. It would be one or the other from the subcommittee. So if there's no consensus on a candidate, subcommittee will come back with the recommendation that there is no consensus, and we would take the vote to take it to a special election.
Well, I know there's motions on the floor.
Madam Mayor, if I could make a suggestion.
City manager and city attorney, what time frame? That's the only other part I'm worried about here is the time frame.
Right. So you have 60 days in which to make a decision. That decision can be to appoint or to call an election. If the decision is to call the election, you have 60 days in which to make that happen. I believe you have 2 meetings on your calendar that will fall within that 60-day period. You have a January meeting and the first meeting in February. And Amanda or
it's so the first meeting in February, I believe, is February 3rd, and that would be at the kind of the end of the 60-day period, which I believe it falls on the weekend after.
So you've got a series of motions, proposed amendments. My suggestion would be everyone withdraw their motions and we start over again with a motion. I hear the sort of construct of 2 alternatives, and I'll just say what I'm hearing, and then somebody can make one of those motions if you choose to. One is an application, that there would be an application process. The application process, the particulars of the process would be determined by a subcommittee in consultation with the city manager. The results of the application process would be the subcommittee would review the applications and make, if possible, make a recommendation for a candidate. I've heard a couple of different things. It could be one name that comes out of that subcommittee. It could be 2, 3, 4 names that come out of the subcommittee. If the subcommittee is unable to agree on a candidate or multiple candidates, then the subcommittee would come back and recommend an election. That's one approach. The other approach from Councilmember Roscoe, I think, was a subcommittee for the purpose of deciding whether the approach should be appointment versus election, not necessarily with the idea in mind that the subcommittee would come back with a candidate recommended, just would come back with a recommendation to either do an interview process or election.
And if I could just add, I think the one point on that second option is that it would leave very little time to actually run an application process. So I would offer it's sort of a take on the first option. If the subcommittee were to convene and were authorized by the council to decide what the process would be, that could be done between now and January 20th. And then it's sort of what Jeff laid out. The committee comes back and either says there's enough consensus about the process of going with applications that we went ahead and and released an application process with, my consultation and here are the applicants, or we decided that there wasn't consensus that an application process could result in an outcome that everyone could support, and therefore we recommend going to call an election on January 20th. So that would at least allow that process to take place before, it gives you a little time before you actually have to release the applications, gives us some time to work together on it as well.
Based on the city attorney's presentation, I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, Councilmember, I'll call your motion. Then is the one on the table, which with our attorney's interpretation of that, or maybe just repeating it again.
Well, I think what I would prefer is that Councilmember Alcala state her motion again.
I still, yes, I'm saying that we accept applications. The subcommittee is formed. They review the applications and bring forth any applications they believe should be considered for filling that vacancy.
And would part of that motion include that the subcommittee would be appointed now and would work with the manager to determine what that application process would look like?
Yes.
Would they be written applications? Presumably they'd have to be. When would the application deadline be? When would notification go out? How would the notice go out? All of those details. We do have a history of having done application processes, so we wouldn't necessarily have to rewrite it from scratch, but I don't remember what those details are today. So,
and we've already done some research to support that, so we could fairly quickly prepare for that.
Yes.
And I'll just reiterate again, the one take on the first option, which the only really difference there between that motion would be the council could authorize the subcommittee to decide on the process first before deciding tonight. So that would be really the only difference, that if the subcommittee can't decide that an application process makes sense, then it's pretty simple. We return on January 20th with a recommendation to call an election. So
I stand with the first motion that I made regarding the applications and then creating the subcommittee.
Thank you. And for the subcommittee members to be myself and Councilmember Ledesma?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And just to restate, so we're all clear, that the subcommittee will decide timelines, process with the city managers, right? And that recommendation could come back. And if the subcommittee can't agree, then we'll have to be transparent about that as well. And
so, Madam Mayor, it sounds to me like the motion is directing to not only decide on a process, but also to employ a process vetting candidates with a recommendation. Council, am I correct or incorrect?
That's what I heard.
That's correct.
So essentially adopting a process as well as a directive to create a process. Is that correct?
Yes.
If
you are the motion as I hear it is you have determined that appointment is the preferred outcome, right? As opposed to what Mr. Laurel suggesting, which is that the subcommittee could have two choices. They could either decide, yes, appointment is the appropriate path, or we can't agree on that, and so therefore we default to election. That was the manager's suggested revision.
Could you restate that? I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, the motion as I understand it right now is, I'm going to structure it slightly differently. The council's makes a statement that their preference is to appoint, that they're going to appoint a subcommittee consisting of the mayor and council member Ledesma. Subcommittee works with the manager to determine a process to solicit applications, reviews those applications, and if they can make a recommendation either on a candidate or a number of potential candidates, those will be passed on to the council. That's how I'm understanding the motion on the floor.
And if I could, the reason for the suggestion I made is just in consideration of potential candidates or applicants in that case that would put forth the time and energy to put their application together. And if there's still uncertainty about whether that process is agreeable, then, you know, starting the process of accepting applications would, at least it would make people have to start their process as well. So it's just a consideration for sort of a hybrid there.
Right. If I throw out my opinion, it also is a recognition of the practical reality is that the subcommittee may not be able to agree on a process. And so it does seem as if the first order of business of the subcommittee is to see whether they can agree on a process. If they can't agree on a process, then we're looking at an election. Right.
And that's the clarification I needed, right? Because the idea of, you know, we go from this point, establish a process, application process, or I should say establish an ad hoc committee, establish an application process, to adopting that process. That's the last step. I don't. No, I'm thinking that if we can agree upon a process, we'd have to bring it back to our colleagues here and say, this is what we're proposing. And if they enact that, we, you know, then we could do even in the same meeting. We have 5 candidates, 2 candidates, whatever it is, 1 candidate. If it is almost a sequential thing, if we can't, if the rest of the council doesn't agree upon it, we're not going to consider any candidates, and we'll go to a special election. I don't want the subcommittee. This is a fairly important thing happening here, you know, you can't have much more. I mean, you can't have much more transparent than an actual election. But this body is not going to agree on that tonight. So if we're going to have a subcommittee and we're going to have a process, that does need to be transparent. And I want my colleagues to be able to know exactly how we're going, how we would propose to vet it, or how propose to enact it. So if I'm, you know, I appreciate being asked to be on a subcommittee. If I was not on a subcommittee, I want to say I want the actual approve that process and not just go from subcommittee to enact it. That's my only comment on that. So if we're headed down that way, I could support that. If my colleagues would, I mean, that's what it comes down to, is the subcommittee has a proposal of what that is bringing it back to council.
Correct, bringing it back to council.
Right.
Yeah. Part of well, as part of the process to review applications, if that is an acceptable process in the interim between now and January, which would include the potential to present candidates that was vetted and considered in the subcommittee. And we could possibly bring all the candidates as part of the process if there is an interest to do so in the subcommittee. However, in the past, with past practice, it was a subcommittee that reviewed the applications, and from there, candidates were informed, and those candidates and council was informed which candidates were approved for the city council to decide. And city council members in the past have gone through this process, and it has been successful. So that's, and it was transparent. So that I believe is a fairly transparent, it's a very good and transparent process for the public to know exactly, it's been done in the past. So it's been something we can do and continue on here in this particular vacancy.
Can we call the question?
You have a motion on the floor. There is no second at the moment.
With the amendment that was the mayor.
Right. Your restated motion, Councilmember Alcala.
Would you like me to restate it then?
Yes.
On record.
It probably wouldn't be a bad idea for you to restate it.
So I'm proposing that we take applications to fill the vacancy, that we form a subcommittee. They review the applications, and if at that point they cannot agree, then an election would be called.
I just wanted, I appreciate the motion. I would, the amendment or the change that was, there's a subtle change in that about accepting applications. I think that's the part I'm hung up on at the moment. I think the subcommittee will set that timeline. We'll set the, I would like to see if we're going to go subcommittee route. I would rather see the subcommittee set that timeline, try to get a process, and then call for applications. And we will have to do, I understand how that, I understand that that's why I'm asking about the timing issue.
So the timing would be then to accept after applications after January 20th for the February, if that's the suggestion of the subcommittee.
Is it fair to assume, Mr. City Manager, that we could have a special council meeting if need be in order to vet or discuss this particular topic in between the January meeting and the February meeting?
I do believe so. I mean, that's a question for Jeff. If that is acceptable at a special meeting, we can certainly try to schedule one.
Yeah, there's no statutory requirement that it occur at a regular meeting. So you could have, you could appoint a subcommittee. I'm not making a motion. You could appoint a subcommittee tonight and give them a fairly short period of time in which to discuss whether the process will in fact be applications or election, and schedule a special meeting sometime ahead of the January 20th meeting to present the results of that discussion to the full council.
Yeah, I was going to make that same suggestion just simply for the reason I said earlier that if you waited until January 20th, you get very little time for applicants and for process.
But if you said committee come back in the first week of January, say, for a special meeting to present the results, and at that point it would either be the committee recommends an application process, and here's the timeline that we've worked out with the manager, or the committee is unable to make a recommendation on an application process, and therefore a recommendation is, or there's no recommendation from the committee. I mean,
right.
So the amendment would be to have a meeting in early January so that we'd have sufficient time, and I would agree to that.
I would recommend the first week of January so that we could give, so that there is enough time for, if the decision is applications, for the applications to be received and reviewed by after the process, and to decide how that's going to be done. So the amended motion on the table is for a subcommittee to be formed to determine the process and have a special meeting to discuss what that process is.
Exactly.
And to come back between now and the next January meeting, to I guess deliver the message of what that process is, so that way in preparation for, if that decision is that we're going by an application process, then
we'll get that started.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. Yes.
Okay. That's fine by me.
And the subcommittee that was proposed was the mayor and council member Ledesma. Is that still part of the motion?
Yeah.
I was going to ask if you want to do it, Jeff. Just kidding.
The answer is no.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Councilmember Alcala moved. Councilmember Ledesma second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Alcala.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
And Mayor Guerrero.
Aye. Motion is approved. And if we can schedule a special meeting in January 6th, so that we can take a look at the recommendation by the subcommittee.
Actually, what I would suggest there is we can poll the council on availability. One of the benefits of this current situation is we have a lot more flexibility with our meeting schedules. So it doesn't have to fall on the normal council time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll reach out and get your availability during that week. So.
That would be great. Thank you so much. Okay, we now move on to the administrative function part 2 of the agenda, and council calendar.
Good evening. Again, no report for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. City manager report.
No, actually, I was going to mention just for everyone's benefit that we are closely tracking, obviously, the status that Yolo County and the rest of the Sacramento region is in with regard to the new state order for COVID-19. And we'll just continue to keep the council informed. We'll know that we're working with the county. The EOC staffs are talking every day. And as we get more messaging from the county, putting it out to the community and sharing it with the council so you can share it as well. But obviously it's a big change in terms of how we proceed with the public health order. So that's all.
Thank you, city manager. City attorney report.
I have nothing to report.
All right, thank you. Any staff direction from city council members? None? All right, any future agenda item requests by council? All right, none to report. And I wanted to check in with the city attorney. We have a closed session agenda. Before we adjourn, I wanted to get your guidance on how to approach whether to adjourn now or to.
You will adjourn to closed session. After closed session, you'll have to come back out into open session to announce any action that was taken.
Okay, thank you.
So technically the meeting stays open. But
Okay,
you'll
so
be in closed session for that period of time.
So if we could ask the clerk and the people streaming the meeting, if you could hold it open until we come back, and we'll use the same link.
Right.
Certainly.
Mayor, and if anyone leaves during that interim, I just want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a very safe one as well.
thank you, Councilmember Alcala, and I second that. I'll accept a motion to adjourn to the closed session.
So moved.
Second.
And seconds, Councilmember Ledesma moved, Councilmember Rosca second, and Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Yes, Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Councilmember Alcala.
Aye.
And Mayor Guerrero.
Aye. All right, that motion is approved. We will now move into closed session. See you all in a second. Okay, all right, we're back from closed session. And I'm going to just quickly report out on what we did during our closed session items. So we had a conference with legal counsel on GC 549-56.9, and there was no action taken. We also discussed existing litigation, and that is the City of West Sacramento versus R&L Business Management et al. Case number 2:18-CV-00900-WBS-EFB. No action was taken. We also had conference with a labor negotiator to review the labor negotiations represented with the West Sacramento Police Officers Association and also the West Sacramento Police Managers Association, and no action was taken. Are there any other comments from our city attorney on what happened in our closed session that you would like to add?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. That sums it up.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I think we can adjourn. And at this point, is that okay, Aaron?
That's fine with me. I do believe we'll have to take a roll call, though, as a reminder.
Yes.
For the adjournment. Yep.
We'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Councilmember Ledesma moved. Councilmember Roscoe second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma.
Aye.
Councilmember Alcala.
Aye.
And Mayor Guerrero.
Aye. And the meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everyone. Congratulations.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.